That is the difference from what you do as part of MRC work and what we do as part of task force work. Yeah, you talk to the qualified technical people, we talk to, ordinary business folks.
Catherine has been instrumental in putting all this together along with Sridhar and Nishtha, sir.
Oh, great. So good to see Nishtha. You are also there. And Divya. Divya, we never met earlier. I thought we exchanged some messages.
Yeah, so I'm actually introducing myself for the first time formally.
Okay. Yeah, because I think I got some messages from you on different subjects. I don't
All right.
remember. We did something
No, there
together.
is another Divya, sir. If there is a confusion, there is Divya Nagaraj also with MRC. She handles admin, sir. And Divya Rai is handling geopolitics and international relations.
Yeah, Divya, I think you should remember we exchanged some messages on something.
Ambassador Bhatia joined. Sir, good morning, sir. Ambassador
Good
Bhatia, sir,
morning.
thank you very much for
Greetings
joining.
from Noida. Wishing you a great success at this particular event.
Morning,
Arnab
sir.
and Anu.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Really grateful to you for joining us, sir.
I'm very happy to be here.
Nishtha, I think you can start.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to this webinar that MRC has put together, wherein we are going to be experiencing presentations by our fellows and the interns who are interning with us today. So while going through some posts in the morning, I came across a nice quote which supported the idea of World Oceans Day today. It said that with every drop of water you drink and every breath you take, you're committed to the sea, and no matter where you live on earth. So yes, on the occasion of World Oceans Day, we all must do our bits to keep the oceans in the best way possible. So through today's conference, we are going to be putting together a platform wherein we'll ask people to raise awareness about the role of oceans in supporting the life on Earth, like life on Earth and on inside the oceans, and what are the steps that we will take, or the steps that are required to provide support to the oceans today. So I'd like to welcome you all. I'd like to welcome the dignitaries who are here, especially Ambassador Mutkal sir and the others who've joined us. Thank you so much for joining. And now I'd like to call Arnab sir to do the opening remarks, which will be followed by some comments by Sridhar, who is the manager at MRC. So welcome, sir.
Thank you, Nishtha, and thank you all. Firstly, I would like to thank our research fellows and interns. It is their effort which actually takes us forward. And as you all know, we take a lot of pride in the body of work that we have generated. Our focus is on the underwater domain awareness framework. I will not repeat the cube, the entire framework that we have formulated. And idea is to populate each and every of those cubes and the subcubes and future subcubes that are possible in that. So today's presentation, every year we take a lot of pride in hosting this presentation by our research fellows and interns. And I'm sure you will appreciate the diversity and the depth of work. And I think we have come a long way in terms of the work that we have done. So the entire idea, as I said, is to populate the different facets of the underwater domain. I don't want to repeat anything. I think World Ocean Day is the fit event to showcase our work, and our request to the dignitaries is we would be very keen to hear from them, get their inputs in terms of shaping up our future work. And what you see today is actually a work of many interns and fellows who are not here today. With a lot of pride, I would like to say that I think almost 200 plus BITS Pilani students who have been regularly coming and working with us, they have contributed, and each project has gone from one level to the next. And now I can say more than 100 IIT students have come and worked, And not only IIT, then there are, so we take a lot of pride in our multidisciplinary work. There are different types of students, and you will witness it in our presentation also today. Every discipline is important, and we take cognizance of, our basic aim is policy and technology intervention along with acoustic capacity and capability building. But anything that touches upon the underwater domain is relevant to us, and we would like to contribute. Now we also have, you'll see even IITs have a multidisciplinary framework. There are students who are pursuing technology along with economics and various such subjects. So it's very interesting. Even many of our top-notch institutions have become very versatile, and they have a very, and as Anamika Barua, professor from IIT Guwahati, had come and mentioned that the rule says that you cannot start an IIT if you do not have established humanities department. So humanities department is a very important component of an IIT, and that's the rule says that you have to have a humanities department. So it's a very welcome step, and so we are very happy to collaborate across disciplines. We get students from TERI and various other top institutions. Even JNU has also shown interest in sending people. So I'll hand over to Sridhar to take it forward from here.
Thank you, sir. Very good afternoon to everyone. On behalf of everyone in Maritime Research Center, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all our dignitaries. We're happy to have you all with us in our platform for this occasion of World Oceans Day. At the Maritime Research Center, we follow a product life cycle that involves establishing an initial proof of concept on new ideas by interns, as mentioned. Followed by that, in this period of internship, we expect from them a research note that clearly establishes the state of the art of their current domain, so as to make sure that we are always at the edge of the innovation. Further, each of them also contribute towards a premium UDA Digest platform, which allows them to connect with the audience better, delivering the importance of the project to the common public in a common language where people can understand. Our fellows are the pioneers of the new initiatives that happen in MRC. These fellows are also basically the interns that have come back, and most of them have worked with us. They work on these raw proof of concepts and shape it up into a substantial project with a real world application. As sir mentioned correctly, these are the works that have happened over the past 2 years, and now they are shaping up in a substantial work. Apart from their publications as a research note and a UDA Digest article, each of them published to premium conferences and journal publications so as to scientifically establish their innovative idea. Most important of all, our engineers are further responsible for taking the project and deploying the same for the open world to experience. They're responsible for deployment and as well as maintaining that particular project continuously so as to cater for the needs of the users. With that, we now can proceed to the presentations around the broader topics ranging from geopolitics and international relations, marine spatial planning, sediment management, climate change, AUV development, and many more projects. Most importantly, we also have a lot of inculcations of machine learning and artificial intelligence in these projects now by all of our fellows and interns, as already informed. And we are happy to share these thoughts of ours with you. We're happy to showcase our work. All this work has been a work that has been established over the past few years that are coming to a light now, and we are keen to see how they proceed. I now invite our fellow Ms. Divya Rai to start with her presentation, please.
Thank you, Sridhar. Just let me know if you can see my screen.
Yep.
Good morning, everyone, and a very happy Oceans Day to all of you. Today, I'll be presenting on the topic multilateral and bilateral partnerships and the importance of UDA framework. I'll not go deep into the various multilateral partnerships that exist in the Indian Ocean region, but I'll touch upon BIMSTEC just a little bit to give you a brief background about why do we need the UDA. To begin with, my presentation will deal with these three questions. Basically, why should the countries of Indian Ocean region drive towards a blue economy? How does the UDA propose to shore up the strategic edge of the Indian Ocean region? And how does UDA in multilateral construct respond to the need for growth and sustainable development for all in the region? So to begin with, if you can see the slide clearly, on the occasion of World Ocean Day, this is our globe, but this is an ocean-centric view of our Earth. As you already know that despite various lessons from our past, we are particularly not known for maritime outlook. And the recent events go further into underscoring the highlighting the sea blindedness of the countries and especially the policy makers, which technically undermines the vital interest of the country. So we need to look at why does the ocean matter? If you look at these infographics, you'll understand that the ocean offers way more than we can imagine. For example, the GDP contribution of ocean is more than 70 trillion and value of ecosystem service is more than 38 trillion US dollar annually. And it contributes significantly to the economy. And not just that, maritime transportation forms the backbone of international trade and global economy. Around 80% of volume and 40% of value of international trade is carried by sea. And the number goes even higher for the developing countries. Apart from the marine resources and GDP, it also helps in sustaining the livelihood of people who are wholly or partially relying on the marine resources. So all in all, we can sum it up that the ocean plays an important role in our today's world. But with the increasing population and the limited land resources, many coastal and island countries are heavily relying on marine resources for various economic opportunities. The ocean resources are now confronted with multidimensional challenges due to the impact of climate change, sea level rise, ocean acidification. And to top it all, the humans are now altering the course of nature by engaging in destructive practices like bottom trawling, unsustainable exploitation of hydrocarbons, and rapid expansion of plastics, which has further depleted our marine resources. And these changes kind of affect the aquatic species, distribution of the aquatic species, which often lead to the decline in economic productivity. Therefore, a serious effort is needed to cope with the increasing pressure on ocean resources and to pursue the objective of blue economy. And pursuing the objective of blue economy becomes extremely crucial to the prosperity and development of the ocean. Now, why do we need blue economy towards a sustainable future? So I'll not go deep into the concept of blue economy. Blue economy concept was first formulated by Gunter Pauli in 2010 and which was later on discussed by you at the UN conference on sustainable development. The definition goes like this, but the definition varies from one regional countries to other regional countries. For example, according to World Bank, the blue economy definition goes like use of oceanic resources in sustainable manner for better livelihood and job opportunities and higher economic growth for all, along with the conserving the health of ecosystem. So given the importance of blue economy, the concept is still at a nascent stage and we need to adopt a universal concept of blue economy. Now, why do we need blue economy in Indian Ocean region? Blue economy, as I've already mentioned, that it should not be viewed in independent pillars, but it should be viewed in interdependent pillars. And these three pillars are security, sustainability, productivity. If you leave any one of them, the other one will get impacted. For example, if you start focusing only on the security aspects of the ocean, then the sustainability or the marine resources will start declining. And that will eventually impact the productivity of the ocean, which will eventually lead into loss of livelihood and loss of various coastal people living on the coastal areas. Therefore, the blue economy concept encompasses all the aspects of national, global governance, economic development, and protecting and sustaining the environment. Then how do we harness the opportunities of blue economy under the UDA framework? If you look at the figure closely, you can see that the opportunities provided by UDA are very much closely related to the blue growth sector. For example, blue growth sector talks about marine resources. At the same time, the UDF framework also talks about the blue resources. But we need to understand what is exactly blue economy, underwater domain awareness framework. So underwater domain awareness framework can be understood on the horizontal and vertical construct. This figure, as Commander has already mentioned in his opening remarks, that it lies on four horizontal which depicts the stakeholders, that is marine environment, disaster management, blue economy, maritime security, and research innovation. And in the vertical structures lies the hierarchy of establishing the comprehensive UDA. The first level goes sensing, the other one is analyzing the regulation, and in the core lies the acoustic capabilities and capacity building. This figure gives a comprehensive way forward for the stakeholder to engage and interact, and these individual cubes technically represent the specific aspects that needs to be addressed. Now, moving on to the next question, how does the UDA propose to shore up the strategic edge of the Indian Ocean region? Indian Ocean region not only provides, has now become an extremely important region in today's geopolitical from the geopolitical aspects. The Indian Ocean region holds around 68% of world proven oil reserves and 27.9% of natural gas reserves. It is responsible for around 28% of global fish catch. It also accounts for around 35% of 35% of world total population, which is 2.6 billion people. And India recently became one of the most populous country in the world. And the major sea route lies in this region. If you can look at the location, these are the major choke points that exist in the Indian Ocean region. And most of our maritime trade transport travels through this region. So the Indian Ocean region becomes extremely important in today's geopolitical scenario. And the strategic importance, and this has technically impacted with the extra regional and regional power moving towards the region. Therefore, we need to have a more enhanced regional cooperation that allows them to harness the resources at a more sustainable manner. Since the blue economy has become an influential concept and it has gained an importance in IOR strategy of various countries, therefore, push for blue economy in the Indian Ocean region would require concentrated efforts by the regional organizations such as IORA and BIMSTEC. How does the BIMSTEC construct in IOR respond to the need for growth and sustainable development for all in the region? Let's take an example of BIMSTEC. BIMSTEC has enormous potential. Bay of Bengal region has enormous potential. It has one of the fastest growing economies in the world. It has abundant natural gas. For example, Myanmar has the largest proven gas reserves, and half of the world containers traffic transits through this region. And its port handles around 33% of the global trade. And it has the largest marine ecosystem. So Bay of Bengal region becomes extremely important, not just for India, but for the region, for the countries surrounding it. And but the almost 80% of the Bay of Bengal region remain unexplored due to the challenges such as low pressure, high temperature, low visibility. Therefore, understanding of underwater domain becomes extremely necessary. A comprehensive UDA will help us in understanding the Bay of Bengal, which will help in balancing the sustainable economic activities and marine conservation. So the UDA, not just that, the economic anthropogenic activities are also impacting the ocean. If you look at the marine pollution that's been impacting the ocean, the plastic pollution, the formation of dead zone in the Bay of Bengal region, rise in sea level is impacting countries like Bangladesh. Then marine vessels are emitting gases like CO2 and nitrogen oxide, which are impacting the coral reefs. And to top it all, we have the deep sea mining. So BIMSTEC challenges posed by globalization and underwater activities in Bay of Bengal region has pushed the global grouping to ensure that they are able to bring. Now the regional approach to blue economy has been like this. India has published a blue economy vision 2025. So I'll not dwell much on this. Now the way forward. Definitely UDA is the need of our, particularly for the multilateral organization. UDA and push for blue economy in organizations like IORA and BIMSTEC can enhance the collective maritime security and promote sustainable resource management and effectively respond to the natural disaster and other shared challenges. And the understanding about the underwater domain has come very less. So therefore we need, and these can be only addressed by adopting a UDA framework. An effective implementation of digital ocean is only possible through UDA, and UDA can leverage the artificial intelligence, which will help in addressing the problems of underwater marine resource depletion. And to not to forget the marine spatial planning, and also the UDA help us in addressing the skill gap in multilateral organizations like BIMSTEC and IORA. To sum it up, realization of true potential of ocean should be accompanied by awareness to derive economic development from marine resources, while ensuring the conservation and sustainable management of marine ecosystem. And these gaps can be addressed if we understand the oceans better, and UDA can be the first step towards understanding and taking joint action to explore existing potential of blue economy. With that, thank you for your attention. I would be very happy to share any comments or suggestions from you all. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Divya. Thank you for very kindly letting us know about the blue economy in the Indian Ocean region and others. Thank you so much. Like I would request everybody, like for those of who are not the presenters, I would request them to keep their mics off so that the presenter does not face any difficulty while speaking. Also, I would request the presenters to keep their presentations within time limit so that all of us can present. Divya was well in time. Thank you, Divya, for that. Next, we have Khwahish with us, who's going to be speaking about the conservation of biosphere reserves. Before I request Khwahish to join us, I would also like to inform that MRC has collaborated with UNESCO on biosphere reserves, and we had commemorated the first ever Biosphere Reserves Day with UNESCO on 3rd of November. So, and post that conference, significant steps have been undertaken by both MRC and UNESCO. And we have initiated a plan to develop a center of excellence that would focus on coastal, marine, and freshwater socio-ecology and underwater heritage. So we are grateful to UNESCO for collaborating with us on this aspect. I would like to call Khwahish. Khwahish, please take the stage and start your presentation.
Good morning, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Is my screen also visible?
Yes.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Khwahish Vik, and I'm a research intern with MRC. I'm an undergraduate student at the Symbiosis School for Liberal Arts, and I'll be presenting the progress I've made on my assigned project titled Discerning the Importance of Biosphere Reserves, the Sindhudurg Case. This will be the structure of my work presented today. Right. Firstly, I believe it is important to discuss what a biosphere reserve entails. It is essentially a site that aims to integrate sustainable use with promoting biodiversity. The sites can include interdisciplinary approaches to map interactions between social and ecological systems. UNESCO, the international body which categorizes and manages the World Bank of Biodiversity Reserves, deems them to be local solutions to global problems. Therefore, the aim of this project is to highlight the importance of biosphere reserves as promoters of sustainable growth nationally and globally. The methodology adopted for this inquiry is highly qualitative and hence employs secondary data sources such as policy briefs, academic papers, and more. Literature reviews have been used to formulate the findings for this project, along with the brief use of content analysis. This is a project that adopts the case study model with emphasis on Sindhudurg as a case. Hence, it is natural that Sindhudurg-specific case information would also be used in the methodology. Sindhudurg is an administrative district of the Konkan division of India. It is surrounded by the Arabian Sea on the east, the Belgaum district and Goa on the south, and the Ratnagiri district on the north. If witnessed closely, one can see how the area itself is unique for its coastal trade and in the way it connects the same to the hinterland. With the Portuguese trade flourishing on the Konkan coast historically, Sindhudurg's strategic importance was cemented as Shivaji Maharaj built a fort in the area, Sindhudurg, for monitoring and protection purposes, which is why the present-day area takes its name. It's an important case point because it is host to biodiversity spanning many areas. As a coastal district, marine biodiversity is present in the form of various fish, mollusks, crustaceans, etc. The Sindhudurg coral reefs are especially important as they support an underwater ecosystem. The mangroves act as breeding grounds for fish and protect the region from coastal erosion and storms. They also help sequester carbon dioxide, contributing to climate action. There is avian biodiversity here with migratory and resident birds. Now, despite its offerings, it faces threats from emerging issues such as temperature shifts leading to changing migratory patterns of animals and population pressure in the area. A general finding in that is that there has been poor conservation of Sindhudurg's biodiversity. In 1986, a marine sanctuary was to be opened in Sindhudurg, which never came to fruition. An empirical example of poor efforts lies in the fact that it is home to olive ridley turtles during their nesting season, which have now become endangered marine species. This paper would suggest that the answer to poor preservation could lie in the implementation of a biosphere reserve at Sindhudurg. As visible since 2016, our biosphere reserves have not increased in number, and this can be a cause of concern given the fact that environmental developments have occurred over the last few years, especially with COVID-19. When further exploring the importance of biosphere reserves, the literature review I conducted helped in the identification of three verticals which host the impact of importance: socio-political, socio-cultural, and socio-economic. Due to the paucity of time, I briefly mentioned two cases under each vertical. Biosphere reserves are important for involving the local communities that settle near these areas in conservation efforts and also for better locally managed political systems for land and water management. This creates an efficient top-down system of polity where local stakeholders administer for governmental functioning. Brunkhorst presents a paper outlining the Riverland Biosphere Reserve in Australia, post the establishment of which a number of land care groups were established to spread the share of land management, responsibility, and decision making amongst locals. This is a unique organizational arrangement for land care groups. UNESCO's involvement in the biosphere reserve space also carries its political dimension. By monitoring these reserves, there have been enhanced promotion of intergovernmental efforts to maintain biosphere reserves, thus affecting nations' diplomatic relations as well. Schlepp and Stoll-Kleeman conclude in their study that intergovernmental endeavors by UNESCO, like the Man and Biodiversity Program, have the potential to serve as positive stimuli for national policies on the integration of biodiversity conservation due to the simple influence from international standards of the same set by organizations like the UNESCO. In the socioeconomics vertical, Kratzer and Amring mentioned the importance of biosphere reserves and the specific environment they create to offset social innovation for sustainable solutions, which therefore leads to inventions for the local economy and capital formation in these environmental areas by not just production of goods, but also employment of people and therefore division of labor. In a similar case, Petrusel, Petra, and Mita mention how biosphere reserves should be able to inculcate the management of resources in people, and that while the protection and subsequent separation to a level of these reserves can be argued to be detrimental to development, it is beneficial if environmental education is increased amongst people. This will drive up literacy rates, and with awareness, job creation and labor streamlining is apparent. People, animals, and flora coexist in biosphere reserves, hence the importance of biosphere reserves to maintain culture emerges. Singh, Borthakur, and Fukan mention how the existence of the Nok Creek Biosphere Reserve in India helped in the sustenance and protection of the Garo tribe's cultural knowledge, which further helped in their cultural continuity. Due to the reserve, local medicinal plants were conserved, and this led to their culture's traditional knowledge of medicine to continue to be applied. Almost one-fourth of the plant species were used in the treatment of cough, flu, and cold, which are prevalent ailments in the area. Similarly, Huayper, Lozaya, and co-authors make a point about how the Manu Biosphere Reserve has maintained, due to the knowledge of indigenous people, to cultivate land in a sustainable fashion, and that these methods are better for amphibious conservation than other efforts taken by governmental bodies. Now, the socio-cultural aspect points to something important for biosphere reserves, the role that traditional knowledge and wisdom play in sustainability. For Sindhudurg too, due to it being a coastal town, people had settled there many years back for sustenance. While traditional, the knowledge of these people and indigenous people is what has kept the area afloat and continuing through the years. In a study of the place, marine ecologist Dr. Divya Karnar makes mention of how local fishermen had developed a system of rules to prevent the use of large-scale exploitative fishing gear, which they themselves monitor and enforce, imposing punishments on transgressors. For catching fish, the locals of Sindhudurg developed a new kind of purse seine, a mini purse, using their local expertise and wisdom. Without traditional knowledge, even technological developments and interventions would be difficult to implement, as the wisdom and experience of the locals would largely inform any larger initiative towards sustainability. Their satisfaction and heritage conservation ensures larger participation towards the same, while their methods prove useful in maintaining plants and land usage, as mentioned before. Given my research till now, I have been able to identify some general pointers on how a potential policy for Sindhudurg's biosphere reserve should look like. One of the limitations that I came across in my study was that the body of work on Indian biosphere reserves was very limited. There is not enough and recent literature on the policies that were used on the making of India's biosphere reserves and of their current state. Hence, my suggestion are a resultant of the broad observations drawn from biosphere reserves literature across the world, coupled with Sindhudurg specific information I'm aware of. One of the major gaps in biosphere reserves is that they fail to account for the traditional knowledge and local wisdom of the people, and rather end up becoming initiatives with no direct experience and knowledge of the surrounding environment. The proposed policy intervention for Sindhudurg would be such that it includes the local knowledge and wisdom of the people. Sorry, am I audible?
Yes, Paish, you're audible.
Apologies, I believe I popped out. Uh, right.
Please continue.
Right. All right. Uh, it would essentially include any local knowledge and wisdom that the Sindhudurg people and indigenous communities that are settled around there would gather, as this would be instrumental for formulating and therefore implementing the policy as well. Now, as mentioned before, the extent of Sindhudurg is threefold, and hence the policy's intervention would be such that the proposed biosphere reserve spans over the coasts, ghats, and the Ratnagiri plateau. With accounting of the biosphere reserve, the livelihood of the people and its context must also be considered in the implementation of the reserve. Historically, people would sustain themselves through rice cultivation and even piracy from the Konkan coast. And with time, these sustenance efforts shifted. The reserve should be such that it does not undermine livelihood methods used by the locals, both past and present, making it a central tenet of consideration. Since this area was host to Shivaji Maharaj Sindhudurg and hence part of his Maratha defense legacy, the locals also here experience pride in their heritage and culture. Hence, the same must be maintained and taken into account. Now, by accounting for their knowledge, livelihood, and pride, such a policy step would ensure participation of the locals in the maintenance and sustenance of biosphere reserves, which is essential to the long term sustainable goals attached with the aim of biosphere reserves. No goals can be met without enthused actors or stakeholders. Lastly, to discuss the scope of my work briefly, I present a three-pronged scope. The first is to locate and develop inclusive policy in biosphere reserves. The second would be to encourage the formulation of interventions for biosphere reserves whilst accounting for the human element. This basically means keeping in mind the interests of the people along with other parties such as executional ability, finances, etc. The human element is crucial here as it will ensure the continuity and birth of action taken towards policy implementation, not just formulation. Lastly, such a work will contribute to bridging gap in body of knowledge respecting traditional knowledge of locals and their wisdom as important resources for sustainable policy in India and present an applied lens for the same. Traditional knowledge and local wisdom along with the human element will be central to this cause and thus my study. I look forward to further develop my project in a thorough manner. I would like to leave today's audience with a quote re-emphasizing my focus on the human element by Alice Hawthorne Denny, which states that once you realize that human actions affect every bit of earth and sky, you realize that the environment isn't just what surrounds us, it's all one whole. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Kwahish, for your presentation. I think it has helped us understand more about the biosphere reserves and the importance of conserving the biosphere reserves, not just in India, but around the world. Next, we are going to be having a series of presentations on marine spatial planning. And so I'd like to call Sanskar and Anish. I believe they are presenting it jointly. So, which will be followed by presentations by Akshita and Akshay, who are interns with us. So, Sanskar, I would request you to put forward your presentation and please introduce yourself to everybody who's present over here. And you can flash your slide now.
Hi everyone, thank you Kwaish for your insightful presentation for the biosphere reserves. And hi, myself Sanskar, and I am pursuing chemical engineering from IIT Delhi, and I am in MRC since last 1 year. I did my intern and I developed a tool for passive sonar for maximum detection range. And as of now, I'm working on the broader aspect of marine spatial planning. And in that, I'm working on the 3D ambient noise mapping. So I am presenting the slides. I hope it's visible.
Yes, it's visible, Sanskar.
Okay, thank you. So these are the contents I will be covering, like what is the ambient noise, what's the use of 3D ambient noise mapping. We created a software or the program explanation, steps to be taken forward, and the advancement to be done in our software. A quick demonstration of the project, and the last but not least, how we use the MSP, which is the broader aspect of the project, and how we can further use the project and how it can be beneficial for the different stakeholders of what we are covering. Just covering through the ambient noise. So ambient noise basically covers both aspects, the human and the natural. So the natural sources of ambient noise can be waves, winds, rain, and such as marine life, fish, whales, and dolphins. Human activities can be offshore drilling, seismic surveys, sonar systems, shipping, and other things. And there's a thing that change in ambient noise levels can impact marine life at a certain level, and excessive noise can interfere with their way of communication, which is the transfer of the noise signals, and they totally dependent on that. So this creates the importance of this project and why we are moving forward. Just a snap from what it looks like of our project, and this is a dynamic thing. This is a 2D version for the same, and going forward, this is the front end version. So this is a dynamic front end where we can select a region from where we have to analyze a 3D and a 2D area for the noise management. Of the 3D ambient noise mapping. As we know that there is a in depth, there is a change of temperature and salinity among the ocean, and that creates importance to analyze the noise within the depths. And we have done till certain extent. We have done till 75 meter, and it's totally expandable, and it's a dynamic thing. Forward, this is a program explanation and just a very brief flow of the chart, and that's how it proceeds. We proceed with the live AIS data we get from marine traffic, and that's have to be integrated. But then we pre-process the data according to our needs, and then we calculate the source noise using the Wittekine model, which is as of best algorithm for calculating the source noise, which takes account of the ship manufacturing characteristics and their engine power. Then we select the coordinate which we want to analyze, and then we generate a grid, and each receiver coordinate is 0.25 degree apart from each other. Then we curate the when we take a receiver, and we curate the ships which are under 200-kilometer region of the receiver, and we have done using this Haversine formula, and that's a great way to calculate distance within the sphere. Then we used artificial neural network, which is a bilayer neural network, which helps us determining the transmission loss, and it is trained using the bathymetry data and the temperature and salinity data, which makes it efficient to use at certain locations without any use of repetitive data. Transmission loss for pairs, we create the transmission loss pairs for each receiver with each ship under which it comes. Then we calculate the noise level receiver, subtracting the source level with the transmission loss, which is the energy loss basically traveling to the receiver. Then we 3D visualize the data, the metrics which we have for each receiver, and then we render it to HTML of the local host, and that's how we've done this. Going forward, what are the steps to be taken ahead of this? We have to integrate live AIS data. We have to make it efficient so as it gives the data for the whole Indian for the whole world ocean, and then we have to create a 3D map on the surface of the ocean, which is just a visualization on the Indian Ocean and the world ocean. Inclusion of wind and the sedimentation noise, cloud deployment of the software, and having it live on board. Demonstration of a final result, what we have. This is the 3D version, which I selected the area. And when we zoom inside it, we can see in depth the values, and that helps us analyze the values of noise within 3 dimensions within the depth. Going back to the presentation. Now, how we use the MSP. So first, like these are the basic steps which are taken under the MSP, and how we use it. Like first we define the objectives and scope. We have defined objective, how we are using it and why we are developing it. we gather the data and the information and assess the current state. As of now, there's no such program developed. Engage all the stakeholders which are going to use it and which are the part of the development. Analyze the data and the stakeholder input. Evaluate environmental impacts and assess socio and economic factors. Develop MSP plan. Implement MSP plan. And the final step which we are at is the monitor, evaluate, and reviewing and update. Moving forward, where we can use it is what's the use of this software? What's the use of this software? Like shipping and maritime, we can use it for the commercial activities and the shipping activities. Underwater construction like bridge piling and the underwater tunnel construction. The software can help visualize and predict the noise propagation. The marine protected areas, the marine research, and the offshore energy development. Coming to the end of my presentation, there's a quote by Marina Reed. Amidst the symphony of the ocean's ambient noise lies a delicate balance between nature's harmony and human intervention. Through 3D ambient noise mapping, we strive to uncover the hidden melodies of our marine environment, orchestrating a future where industry and ecosystem coexist in harmony. So that's from my end, and I would like to invite Anish for the remaining presentation and how he developed the front end with his team. Hand over to you, Anish.
Thank you, Sanskar. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Sanskar. I'll just show you the presentation. So good morning to all. I'm Anish, and what I have done, I have basically developed the software tool, which has been done based on the work done by Sanskar on the noise mapping. So basically, what is the need of such a tool? So as we talked about the increase in maritime traffic and also the various man-made noises under the ocean are increases. So we simply worked on developing a software tool to investigate and effectively map the acoustic emissions due to shipping. Basically, just to demonstrate how it works, we are taking the AIS data from the ships and also the various remote transponders in the ocean. And this data basically is fed into our software, and we are getting the heat map generation out of the noise values. This is just the block diagram. We are taking parameters such as bathymetry, temperature, sedimentation, and then we'll do the ambient noise calculation in order to get the 3D mapping of the noise. And before I go into this, I would like to demonstrate the software. Yes. If you can see my screen. So this is just the front end of the tool that we made. So what we have done, we've made the process very intuitive. The GUI model allows you to simply select an area in the Indian Ocean. As you can see, the latitude, longitude coordinates here, they get updated as you select, like in this rectangular region. So if we wish to get the mapping on just this region, so if we run the process, so as you can see, we get a 2D map and also a 3D visualization. These are the various receiver coordinates within that region. And you can see there's a scatter plot which we have done. And also you can get the 3D map, which looks something like this. Sanskar had talked upon this This is a 3D map which helps us to visualize the uh, ocean noise within this latitude longitude region, and also the depth as well. So we've included the depth to make it a 3D software. Going back to my presentation. So the software technologies that we are used are these, and I'm just gonna spare you the details. Later on, we wish to also deploy this in the cloud so that we are able to unload some of the computation that is required in the backend. And also, in order to make it platform independent, you can access this tool across all devices on your phone or your computer. And I would like to conclude. Marine spatial map planning is not just about the mapping, it's about balancing the competing demands for ocean space and resources and ensuring sustainable use for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Anish. Thanks, Anish and Sanskar, for your presentations. Now we have Akshita, who's also going to be presenting on a similar topic under marine spatial planning. So, Akshita, you can make your presentation.
I hope you're able to see my screen, right?
Yes, and you're audible. Please
Yeah.
go ahead.
With the aim to drive the underwater domain awareness framework for facilitating a safe, secure, and sustainable growth model, I, Akshita Mangal, a research intern at MRC, will be manifesting before you all a presentation on ambient noise mapping. I hereby showcase the flow of the upcoming PPT. Starting on why do we actually need to map the ambient noise of a particular region. So ambient noise mapping has many applications like in dark ship detection, sonar range detection, acoustic capacity and capability building. And these days, these shipping and industrial activities also contribute a lot to the ambient noise of a particular region. These activities, like the deep sea mining, are a major concern for the environmental degradation sustainability due to the acoustic habitat degradation. Also, to establish effective real-time underwater communication, we must understand the noise soundscape of a particular region and the region we are working with. So the real-time ambient noise mapping is thus a critical component of the modeling and simulation effort across the water bodies. Effective noise mapping is vital for creating technology and policy interventions and noise to protect the marine environment. Moving ahead, the calculation of the noise basically follows the equation which has two parameters, source level and the transmission loss. The source level is calculated using the models like the Wittikin model, Ross model, etc. However, for the calculation of the transmission loss, the current existing methods really involve high compute time and require specialized hardware. Apart from this, they are too mathematical and also require plethora of inputs, making real-time computation using these models really next to impossible. So we need a solution that can fasten this process of ambient noise calculation by providing us real-time transmission loss at a particular region. And here you go. We propose a data-centric approach based on the current state-of-the-art ML algorithms to learn from the simulation data. These deep learning algorithms have proven really successful in learning the distribution conditions on the input, making them universal function approximators. We let an artificial deep neural network model to learn from the data generated from the range acoustic model, basically the PERAM model, and compare the two approaches based on the resources and the error metrics. This work basically focused on mathematically modeling the propagation of the acoustic waves through the said region, taking into account the surface and the bottom interactions due to the seabed, moreover the attenuation, and also the propagation and the multipath propagations. A direct result of this modeling effort is that it enables us to calculate transmission loss, which was our main focus. Now, we needed a data set to train our model. So we found that for the low frequency region and also for the region that we selected, the model that is the parabolic equation based models are the most suitable. So we chose an open source Python implementation of the PERAM model, that is the PyRAM, and it has been used to train it. Coming to the accuracy of our model, a mean square error of 18.828 denotes the difference between the transmission loss predicted by the ANN and the values calculated by the PERAM differ by approximately 4.5 decibels on average. We also compare the transmission loss estimated by the PERAM model and the proposed ANN model plotted against the range as shown in the figure. It can be seen that there is a substantial overlap in the transmission losses obtained by both the models. So this overlap of the transmission losses reaffirm the proposition that our model can be used as a vital replacement for the PERAM model and in our chosen region and our chosen low frequency range. So this work basically aims at finding a suitable real-time replacement for the PERAM model to calculate the transmission loss of a transmitter in the tropical littoral waters of the IOR, as ANN purely runs on the matrix multiplications and is significantly faster during inference, enabling real-time usage. However, as it is widely said that there is room for improvement, so we do. A shortcoming of this work is that it is trained on the data obtained by the PERAM model and hence is limited in its accuracy and scope of usage. Other than that, the model basically disregards completely the physics of the sound propagation and the differential equations formed thereof. So our next aim is to incorporate these differential equations and to make and create a new ML-based modeling to create hybrid techniques. Saying that, I would like to wrap up with the quote, "Conservation is the preservation of life on Earth, and that above all else is worth fighting for." Thanks and have a charming day.
Thank you. Thanks, Akshita. Next, we have with us Akshay. So Akshay, please make your presentation. He's also going to be speaking on marine spatial planning.
Hello, good morning everyone. Today, I, Akshay Mondal, a research intern at MRC, is going to present my project on the effect of intermittent noise on shipping noise mapping. This is the flow of content I would follow. First, I would give a brief introduction of ambient shipping noise mapping and why it is required. Then we would go through the intermittent noise sources, more specifically the wind and precipitation noise. Then we would see the clean shipping noise estimation process. And finally, we would end with the application and future scope of this project. Underwater noise estimation is estimation of noise sources and its modeling and studying its impact in a region, which in our case in the Indian Ocean region. But first we need to know why we need to do it. The ocean is home to many marine animals who use sound waves as means of communication and gathering information about their environment. However, over the last century, the ocean noise levels is rising due to various activities. This is negatively impacting the ecosystem and ocean animals. They are losing their communication ability and ability to hear vital environmental cues essential for their survival. The marine animals use low frequency sound below 1 kHz region as their communication media. As per the study by G.M. Wentz in 1962, when plotting the spectrum level versus frequency, we see that the dominant noise in the low frequency region is the shipping noise. So estimation of shipping noise is very important in our aspect. Underwater noise produced by ships is mostly due to propeller cavitation, which is the process of formation and collapse of bubbles around the rotating propeller blades. This noise is hence dependent on the propeller design. However, shipping noise estimation is impacted by some intermittent noise sources like wind and precipitation. The wind noise is dependent on the speed of the wind blowing over the region, and it varies over the frequency range of 500 Hz to 50 kHz. Precipitation noise varies according to the raindrop bubble size impacting the ocean surface, and it produces a wide frequency spectrum noise. Human activities like fishing, leisure aircrafts, and industrial activities like oil drilling also account to noise pollution in the underwater domain. Wind noise is a major component of ambient noise in underwater domain. When waves break due to air-sea surface interaction, noise is generated. When the waves break on impact on sea surface due to wind, bubbles are formed. When multiple bubbles are formed, these bubbles conglomerate to form bubble clouds within few meters under the sea level. These bubble clouds then propagate in all the directions underwater, affecting the ambient noise mapping in the low frequency region. Precipitation or rain noise is a continuous broadband noise and generally lasts for several hours or sometimes even days. The noise produced directly depends on the total rainfall rate. During light rainfall, which is less than 2.5 mm per hour, the raindrop size is small and it produces a broad wind-sensitive noise with spectral peak at 15 kHz. While during heavy rainfall, which is greater than 7.5 mm per hour, the raindrop size is large and it also produces a broadband noise spanning 4 to 21 kHz. Now we come to the clean shipping noise estimation part. We already have a shipping noise data from previous estimation by mathematical and machine learning models. The intermittent noise generated from wind and precipitation is estimated from the available historical weather data of the Indian Ocean region. This noise is then filtered out from the shipping noise to get a clean shipping noise. The clean noise thus obtained can be used in the following applications. It helps us in studying and mitigating the effects of underwater noise of marine animals. It also helps in improvement of sonar efficiency for its usage in submarines, remotely operated vehicles, and autonomous underwater vehicles. It also helps us in determining the signal to noise ratio in underwater domain. Now comes the future scope of this project. In our project, we could not incorporate the noise from industrial sources like oil rigs due to unavailability of data at present. This can be incorporated through on-site industrial noise data collection. We can also look for more influencing ship parameters which affect shipping noise and include them in our shipping noise mapping model. With that, I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, Akshay. I think it's very interesting to see all the quotes at the end of the presentations. They're very valuable and very sums up the presentation very well. Thank you all. So these were the presentations on marine spatial planning. Next, we have some power-packed presentations by our MRC fellows from IIT Delhi, and they're going to be presenting on a topic that the UDA clearly talks about. It's called sediment management, and we have various publications and various UDA Digest articles also to that effect. So I would request the participants, whenever they get time, to definitely visit our website and our UDA Digest platform to get the nuances of it. So I'd like to call Romit Kavre, who's going to be presenting on the topic sediment classification for national maritime issues. Romit, please take the stage and start your presentation.
Yeah. So, good morning, everyone. I am Romit, research fellow at MRC and a graduate from Department of Civil Engineering from IIT Delhi. So, we'll be discussing about the technological perspective of the sediment classification applications in the Indian Ocean region. So the flow will be we'll be discussing some basics about the sediment classification, and then go over through our three main broad topics of interest, and then coming to the what is the current technological state of the art, what are the various challenges that are being faced for deploying such systems, and then the technological interventions that needs to be done. So first we need to understand what sediment classification is necessary. So the sediment structure has been shaped to natural processes from millions of years. Now these are very important in shaping the biotic and the abiotic component of the marine ecosystem. This may include the archaeological, the strategic, construction, or the conservation efforts as well. The various conservation and monitoring efforts are also based on, or the deep sea exploration is also based on knowing what kind of this sediment structure is there. So now this plays an important role in a variety of domains. So there is the sediment bearing pressure, benthic ecosystem, the abiotic element detection. These three will be our main focus here. Apart from that, there is the underwater cable laying, the mineral oil and gas exploration, or the submarine route planning. All of them require a good use of the sediment classification systems. Our first application is the sediment bearing pressure. Now, it is basically the capacity of the sediments or the soil to carry load without excessive settlement or any deformation. This is very crucial in developing offshore facilities like oiling rigs are there, refining facilities are there, bridges or dams over freshwater systems. So the foundation designing requires a good knowledge of the sediment bearing pressure at a particular location. These projects may be of national importance, strategic importance, and are vital for the socio-economic growth of the nation. Apart from that, say military installations also require a good knowledge of the sediment bearing pressure for deployment of assets. Now, the benthic ecosystem is basically the ecosystem lying in the lowest most water body. Now, these are very much essential for knowing for the nutrient recycling and then knowing the health of the ecosystem as well. Thus, it is important to assess this in order to find what is the natural variability of these benthic assemblages, then finding out how they fluctuate based on the various climatic conditions like the ocean warming, and then having a proper future timescale prediction of these ecological assets. Coming to the abiotic element detection, now these are the part of the ecosystem, basically the non-living part of the ecosystem. They may encompass the marine debris from ships and planes, marine litter is there, polymetallic nodules, underwater archaeology may also form a part of it. Our main focus would be on the marine litter and the polymetallic nodules. As we know that trillions of pieces of microplastics and other debris are floating and deposited at the bottom of the water bodies, which are not only harmful for the marine life, but have also entered the food web, indirectly harming the human health as well. The polymetallic nodules are basically potato-sized concentrations of the metals like cobalt, manganese, and nickel, which are vital in the and are vital components in the batteries as well, and thus are very much like they could be crucial in coming to the economic importance. Now, all of these applications are very much crucial, but we can't have proper monitoring or exploration missions if we do not have enough data. So the data collection there have been a lot of research in these data collection techniques. The conventional one being dealing physical samples from a particular location. There would be boreholes, corals or grabbers. Now, the modern day remote sensing and acoustic methods have enabled us to cover a larger area with lowering the cost. They may use various sonars like the sub-bottom profiler or the single beam echo sounder. There could be divers or video sensors could be attached to the AUVs or ROVs, which can provide us real-time feed of what is happening at the ocean floor. And then there are called as these computational simulation tools. So like there is the idea of the digital elevation model or the digital twin, which can enable us to recreate those situations in a simulation without actually going to the field. So across the world, various research have happened. Most of the data is done from the United States Geological Survey or the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration of the US. In fact, the Northern Atlantic and the Mediterranean region remain the most studied, and a lot of data is available in those regions. Like in the Mediterranean region as well, we have the UNIS database, EMODNet, and like a lot of databases, open source database is there. But coming to India, we have the Geological Survey of India, which have conducted major explorations along the coast of India as well. But the data still remains under analysis, and not a lot of data is available in the public domain for use. So coming to the current situation of what is happening in the Indian Ocean region, again, it lies at a strategic axis coming to the economic, strategic, or an environmental point of view. But the deployment of these modern systems remain very minimal. Now, this is because, again, being the tropic waters, it is a home to diverse flora and fauna. This may hamper the working of various equipments as well. The climatic conditions being one of the warmest water bodies in the world, prone to fluctuations of various cyclones, the monsoon activities, pose some acoustic challenges as well. It makes them acoustic shallow, suboptimal performance of various sonars and other equipment have led to we can't directly deploy such systems into the Indian Ocean region. In fact, when we study, we see that even though some studies are being conducted, there is no proper quality check or standardization of the data collection techniques. even if the data is collected from various sources, there is no proper aggregation of these data from the various sources into a common digital database for further use. Like it is totally inaccessible to small scale contractors or researchers. There is lack of public awareness and lack of interest by the various institutions as well. Most of the institutions are like they are understaffed, have low funding, and do not have proper means to undertake high level data analysis as well. So in this, there is no proper single entity which may monitor all the data exploration part, the data collection, and the archives of the data. So that remains one of the crucial knowledge gaps. So what we are thinking is to develop this end-to-end technological intervention, which may first include finding whatever data we can find the online open source data, like the satellite data or Landsat and all can be used in develop in finding and specifications of the hardware to be used, which sensor used, which vehicle to be, and then based on data collect integration of MSP would help us in various policymakers.
Hi, Romit, can you hear us? Hello.
Which would help in giving the needs for the various users based on their data requirement. Thus, this would all be coupled with a policy framework which would include the blue economy, Sagar vision, stakeholder engagement, value addition, and then the various deployment into the freshwater system as well. Now, with this code that you can't manage what you can't measure, I'll just end the discussion. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Romit. Thanks for speaking about your project. Next, we have Rishika Khanna. Rishika is also going to be speaking on the same topic, sediment management. So, Rishika, please introduce yourself and share your presentation. Thank you.
Yes. So hello everyone. I am Rishika Khanna, MRC fellow at MRC fellow, and I am an undergraduate from IIT Delhi. So I will be presenting upon sediment transport studies in tropical waters. I would be starting with the introduction of sediment transport studies and what pathways we are currently studying at MRC in this domain. Then I will give an overview of our case study of JNPT port, and then I will end the discussion with the skill development in sediment management. So, sediment transport is the mechanism by which coastal erosion proceeds. And in tropical waters, the sediment transport impacts the land-water interface and dynamics of coastal zones, rivers, and estuaries. They are continuous. The sediment transport studies are continuously evolving, but they are not curated typically for our tropical waters, and the frameworks cannot be applied directly from other parts of the world because our tropical waters have a very unique climatic conditions, sediment composition, aquatic ecosystem, socioeconomic conditions, and stakeholders perspective. So we are developing a targeted approach which looks upon several issues, including marine traffic, waterway navigation, and shoreline vulnerability by inculcating the technological tools and acoustic capacity and capability building. So to start with, what is the process, to understand the process of sediment transport, we start by looking into the initiating forces which start the sediment transport, by inputting the energy. So there are 5 categories of natural initiating forces, which include the sea level changes, tidal motions, waves, currents, and stream outflows. Next, we look to the what are the grain size significance in the sediment transport studies, because the percentage and type of grains in sediment transport highly determines what will be the suspended sediment concentration in our oceans level, and what will be the concentration of the sediment aggregates known as flocks in the ocean water. Then we look to what the type of sediment movement and how does it takes place. So the sediment is generally moves in the form of bed load and suspended sediment load. So bed load sediment generally moves in the form of rolling and sliding, while the suspended load is moved by the turbulence in the water. Then we understand the cause of movement of these sediments. So main cause is the frictional force which occurs between the flowing water and seabed, which generates the shear stress to overcome the gravitational force as well as the friction between the sediment grains and the underlying bed. And then we study the direction of these direction of movements of these sediments. For instance, the direction of the net coastal sediment transport is usually perpendicular to the shore. So this includes the understanding the process or the process of the sediment transport. Now there are many advantages and downsides of the sediment transport studies. So if our sediment transport is balanced, so it helps in building the aquatic habitat, replenishing nutrients, and maintenance of wetlands. However, if the sediment transport is not balanced, then it can lead to the water contamination, disruption of benthic migration cycles, and also the falling of oxygen levels. So why we are studying different pathways of sediment transport? So there are three different pathways. First is sediment transport studies in river, then coastal areas and the port systems. Because of the effective resource management requires development of separate monitoring systems and prediction tools and intervention strategies. The sediment transport is extremely critical in tropical waters because all three of these systems face high siltation rates in them, and these three systems have different siltation types. So desiltation efforts require precise information of sediment deposition types on each of these systems, and the separate understanding of them would through demographically important case studies would help us in addressing the diversities as well as the similarities of these case studies. So we are looking for policy and technological interventions and acoustic capacity and capability building at the end of this project. Now moving forward to an overview of JNPT port case study. So our aim of this study is to provide solutions to reduce the maintenance dredging costs of JNPT and analyze the acoustic surveying potential in the region. So Jawaharlal Nehru Port is spread over a land area of 2584 hectares, making it one of the country's largest container port, and it handles significant part of country's sea trade. It has 5 operating container terminals, out of which 4 are run by private entities, and JNPCT is run by the Port Trust. The authority which is responsible for overlooking the dredging of this port is Dredging Corporation of India Limited, and in 2019-20 alone, it saw a dredge sediment of over 10 million cubic meter, and the numbers have increased since then. So the Konkan coast, especially this JNPT region, has silt clay or clay type sediment which is cohesive in nature. So this type of sediment often forms fluid mud, which is highly concentrated fluid sediment suspension present at the seabed, and this fluid mud is a primary reason for sedimentation problems around port areas. So initial exploration research have concluded that the main portion of this fluid mud comes from the discharge from Thane Creek. So before going to how we can reduce the maintenance dredging cost, I would like to point out how we can utilize the dredged sediments which have already been dredged. So the Jawaharlal Nehru Port Authority has proposed a developmental plan under which it plans in urban landscaping, in which the dredged sediment can be utilized in the development of urban park and tourist villages. And then there is also there are a total of 11 lakes which are under development in the JNPT area. So the dredge sediment can be used in the ghat development, lake edge development, walkways, running tracks, and green temples. Along with that, there is a proposal of 20 kilometer of road development in which the dredge sediment can be used in road widening and development of bicycle tracks. Now, the case study requires three operational phases for its development. So first is the preliminary research, which includes the collection of background information, talking to on-site working people on-site, and looking for the previously conducted projects on maintenance and design. The second phase is the problem identification, which is followed by field investigation, and the final phase requires a formulation of solutions and giving some technological interventions in the data. Some directions of the specific solutions in this regard are given, such as agitation, development of pneumatic barriers, silt screen, sediment traps, and active nautical depth. Now I would like to go on towards one other stream which we are pursuing at MRC, which is a skill development in sediment transport and in general in UDA development. So it starts with the categorizing the different skilling levels which are required in our industry, building these levels, identification of stakeholders, delivering these development modules in the form of training and education modules. So I will start with a focus on skilling in sediment transport. So the skilling and knowledge requirement of UDF framework in general can be divided into three categories: acoustics, surveying and investigation in acoustics, underwater bioscience and biotechnology, and underwater AI and robotics. So with respect to sediment transport, I will be discussing about surveying and investigation in sediment sampling methods that focus on acoustic sediment mapping, relationship of underwater biosystem, the sediment dynamics, and AI and robotics in sediment transport. So I will be discussing the first two methods out of this. So what is the role of underwater bioscience and sediment transport? So as quoted by Romit, the benthos benthos describes all the animals which are living on or within the sea floor. So all the activities of these benthos is covered by an umbrella term known as bioturbation, which includes the activities of these benthos like digging, swallowing, moving, paving, and ventilating of sediments. These impacts of the impacts of bioturbation in the substrate is classified in four categories, such as change in sediment cohesion, loosening of sediments, induction of fluxes in sediment and water column, and changes in bottom roughness. The first activity of the sediment reworking is the biomixing, in which the benthic organisms are involved in the sediment dislocation, erosion, and resuspension, and these they do by reworking models out of the five out of which are presented here. So the upward conveyors, downward conveyors, regenerators, gallery diffusers, and biodiffusers. So like upward conveyors are those who ingest the food at depth and they defecate at the surface. Downward conveyors do the opposite. Biodiffusers are the local mixers. Regenerators excavate the burrows and deposit the sediment continuously. And gallery diffusers work both as the local as well as the global diffusers. So why this whenever undergoing any acoustic or localized survey, the potential of these benthic organisms in any area needs to be accounted for, as they have an important role in sediment stabilization and transport dynamics. Next is surveying and investigation with focus on acoustic mapping. So as mentioned before, sediment travels in the form of bed load and suspended sediment load, and both of these require separate surveying techniques. The first of which, the suspended sediment load is measured by using acoustic and physical sampling methods very reliably. However, the bed load is difficult to measure directly and is estimated either using mechanical traps or bed form tracking, the tabulation of which is given separately for coastal and river waters. the accuracy of any surveying and investigation depends upon the number of data points collected, and however, with increasing number of data points, the method becomes very difficult to operate. So acoustic as well, optical and acoustic instruments become an attractive option in that case. But these instruments require calibration, and the quality of calibration curves is very important in the accuracy mentioned, and therefore there are requirement of skilled personnel on field who are equipped with correct knowledge of calibrating these equipments. Now, lastly, I will talk about the acoustic Doppler current profiler, which generally measures the total water transport across rivers or water channels, but it also has application in quantifying the suspended sediment concentration by means of a phenomena known as Doppler effect, and the backscattered noise from the sediment particles is related to the suspended sediment concentration through a calibration procedures, and this have a very good estimates within the range of 8 to 10% from the data compared from lab or optical methods. So at MRC, we are developing a skilling modules which taking into account all of these requirements, and we are developing it in various stages from a single day to 5 days, 1 month, and spanning up to 3 and 6 months. And hopefully we will be able to deliver these skilling modules soon in the near future. Thank you. I will take your lead.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ishka. Next, we are going to be having Aman Bansal, who will speak to us on collision avoidance system. So, Aman, you can go first.
Hello, my name is Aman Bansal. I'm an undergraduate at IIT Roorkee and a summer intern at MRC. So my topic of research is collision avoidance and navigation system using AIS. So let me walk through the contents of the slide. I'll be discussing the need of collision avoidance system, what are the available solutions, why we are using AIS, and how AIS can be used in collision avoidance system, and what's the future scope and resources. So let's first discuss the need for the collision avoidance system. Actually, collisions in inland waterways are the biggest threats to inland water transportation. According to the studies, around 80% of the maritime accidents are due to human errors. So there's definitely a need for technology to guide human while taking navigation decisions. According to the European Maritime Safety Agency, it has reported around 20,000 casualties around the world from 2011 to 2017. Among these conflicts, some severe accidents took place, like oil spills. Not only these accidents affect the environment, but also affected the human loss and marine loss of life also. So here's the data of 2009 to 2015. Though the number of ship collisions have reduced, but the number of inland ship collisions majorly account for these and are approximately same as the number of collisions. So what are the available solutions? Many researchers have researched in this field and developed techniques. So the first one is a novel method for risk assessment and simulation of collision avoidance for vessels based on AIS. In this, what they are doing is they are using a mathematical model for the collision avoidance system. Next, the automatic collision avoidance of multiple ships based on deep Q learning. What they are basically doing, they are using deep reinforcement learning for the collision avoidance system. Proactive collision avoidance for autonomous ships leveraging machine learning to emulate situation awareness. In this, they are using support vector machine for the collision avoidance and genetic algorithm for improving the model. Yes, regional ship behavior prediction. The inference model of collision risk index based on artificial neural network using ship near collision data. In this, what they are doing is they are training the artificial neural network on the CPA, closest point of approach, and TCPA, time for closest point of approach, and distance for closest point of approach. And they are considering it to be a near collision situation, and then they are calculating the collision risk index. And based on that, they are providing the alarm situations. So why AIS? AIS is exactly a shipboard transponder system which continuously exchanges data between various ships as well as the shore site over a high frequency channel. What's the use of AIS? Apart from it being real time, it is not affected by sea or rain. It uses very high frequency band, so it is not restricted by line of sight. Because of these information, and it is helpful in navigation aid. So how AIS can be used in collision avoidance system? Actually, AIS comprises of latitude, longitude, speed, course, and dimensions of the ships, which can be fed into a machine learning or a mathematical model to calculate the closest point of approach, time for closest point of approach, and all these factors are used to consider it to be a near collision situation and to calculate the collision risk index. If this collision risk index is greater than a threshold value, then like example, it's like 0.6 or 0.7. If it's greater than 0.6 or 0.7, the threshold value, then it warns the shipments, and we can provide the electronic chart displays to mm, to find the navigated trajectory for these shipments to find that safe route. So what's the future scope? If we combine the available mathematical models and the historical data to project the trajectory of the ships using machine learning models, then it can prove to be very beneficial. Not only it will enhance the situational awareness, but also provide timely warnings and assist the ship operators in making effective navigations. So here's the photo. Like if the ship is to be go on the planned route, then if it detects an obstacle, then the collision avoidance system gets activated and gives you a new route, so you can change the route. This can be very beneficial in the future. So here are the resources which I have used till now for doing my work. At last, I would like to conclude by saying we cannot control the winds, but we can direct the sails. Thank you.
Thank you, Aman. Next, we have Pratham with us, who will speak on the topic AUV design for climate change. And then we have Arijit also on the similar topic. So first, Pratham, please make your presentation and start.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pratham Chandrukar. I'm intern at MRC Pune, and I'm currently pursuing MTech in Thermal and Fluids Engineering in IIT Kharagpur. My topic is design and development of AUV for climate change monitoring, where AUV stands for Autonomous Underwater Vehicle. So the content side includes the introduction part. The PPT will include the introduction, information of AUV, literature review, proposed outcomes, and the future scope. Now coming to the introduction about the climate change. So it is in 1824, French mathematician and physicist Joseph Fourier proposed greenhouse effect theory, where he suggested that the gases trap in atmosphere and it increases the temperature, which regulate the Earth's temperature. Climate change had adverse effects on nature, such as changes in weather patterns, precipitation patterns, biodiversity loss. But it is not only limited to the terrestrial ecosystem. In recent years, it can be seen that climate change has worse impacts on oceans. It causes the sea level rise, increasing temperatures in the sea, and ocean acidification. One of the There is another major problem because of climate change, that is coral bleaching. For this, we use various devices for climate change monitoring underwater, which include AUV, which is Autonomous Underwater Vehicle, ROV, Remotely Operated Vehicle, and many more. So why we think AUV? Because it is more cost efficient and less time consuming. So next slide will give us information about the AUV. The uses of AUV. Has a wide range of uses in oceanographic research, in defense sector, in oil and gas industry, underwater surveying and mapping. The components of AUV include the hull, navigation system, propulsion system, which has pressure and depth sensor, and power system, which includes the battery for the energy purposes. Objective of this project is the dynamic stability of AUV with the help of computational fluid dynamics, which is a branch of mechanical engineering. So this is the literature review, which is most relevant to our research work. First research paper include the use of TFD for dynamic stability of AUV. In this research paper, the drift test and rotating arm test are conducted on AutoSub AUV, and various graphs of surge velocity versus wave velocity, yaw velocity versus velocity were studied. In the second research paper, two different hull designs were studied, like disk type and four-arc symmetric hull. And the graphs were plotted for various angle of attack like 10 degree and 15 degree. In third research paper, a CFD study of AUV studied with a 6 degree of freedom. So this is the proposed outcome of our research. It will get the dynamically stable AUV with the help of CFD simulation. We will analyze the motion of our AUV with the help of stability criteria, and it will show the mechanical feasibility. Our project will also focus on the intended orientation and motion under different operating conditions. So this is the future scope of our work, which include the improved hydrodynamic modeling, which will include the boundary layer model, turbulent model. The second scope is integration with machine learning. So we can couple CFD with machine learning, and we can build the predictive model and learn from the previous simulation and implant it in the next part. Optimization of AUV design is an iterative process where we can learn from the simulation results and make changes in the design. And multi-physics simulation, in which various degree of freedom is studied, and CFD is coupled with structural mechanics. So with this, I conclude my presentation, and these are the references I use. Thank you.
Thank you, Pratham. Arijit, I'd call you for your presentation now. Yes, you're audible. Please start the presentation. We can't hear you, Arijit, as of now. You've started speaking.
Final.
Arijit, I believe you've not started speaking yet, right?
Wild store. Wild store আমি দেখেছি। ওর ছোটটা মনে হয় শেষ আমাকে বলছিল পছন্দ হলে আমি তোকে বলেছিলাম তুই নিজে গিয়ে নিয়ে পছন্দ হয়
I would call Shlok now. Arijit, we'll have your presentation later. First, we'll have Shlok with us, who's going to be speaking on APY analysis for shrimp farming.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to my presentation on APY analysis of shrimp and seaweed farming. And I am Shlok Rimani, research fellow at MRC, and I am also a final year student at IIT. The outline of the presentation is start with the marine resources of India, then the perspective of aquaculture in India and its relevance to the UDE principle, Then start with the importance of APY analysis and how the APY analysis can bring a digital transformation to current aquaculture framework, and concluding it with the notion of moral. India is having a vast amount of marine resources as well as a lot of potential to be harnessed. In terms of economic exclusive zone, we have about 9 lakh square miles of EEZ, or the economic exclusive zone, which extends to about 200 nautical miles from our coastal line. This economic exclusive zone is home to vast resources including oil and gas, mineral and metallic deposits. Apart from that, we have around 1.2 million hectares of brackish water area, which is suitable for the cultivation of fisheries, and a long coastline of around 8,000 kilometers that can be used for the building of aquaculture infrastructure. In terms of starting with the what's the aquaculture means, so it's in short, it means the activities which involve the cultivation of aquatic plants and the aquatic animals. In terms of value, the aquaculture industry is valued at around $202 billion US in 2020 and is expected to grow at the compound annual rate of 3.6%. It means that in the end of about 2026, the industry will be valued at approximately $260 billion. Yeah, the aquaculture industry is important. It supports the upliftment of the society and supports the seafood for the consumption, trade, exports, and also the mineral extraction for the high-end commodities. Apart from that, in aquaculture, the main component as of today is the fishes, followed by the shrimps and prawns. Statistics and the standpoint of India in aquaculture is, in the last decade, the shrimp production increased by 8 times. And in terms of total weight exported, India stands at 13 million metric tons, and in value, it's about 8 billion US dollars. In that whole export, the frozen shrimp accounted for 53% share in weight, which is about 7 million metric tons, and 75% share in the revenue. In terms of seaweed, in the last year, the value was around 40.8 million US dollars, which is not a large term, but the global seaweed trade was worth about US $16.5 billion. That means there is a large potential to be tapped, and even the Indian Council of Agriculture and Research, as well as the Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute, both the director of this council have suggested that India has the potential to increase the seaweed industry by around 300 times to 9.7 million metric tons in the upcoming decade. And this is how the aquaculture is performed. These are the cultivation locations. The ponds are being created, and it is different from what the captivation of fisheries from the natural habitat is. In this, a whole infrastructure needs to be set up where these species are cultivated and they flourish to be used for consumption and trade. This is the strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat analysis of aquaculture. So the underlined are the important ones. The strength, we have the infrastructure for the research organizations, but still there is a lack of innovation on the technological side as the research is just in the very initial stage and is growing. In terms of opportunities, the global demand for the seafood is ever increasing and is at its peak, as well as the threats are the climatic profile for India, which needs to be corrected. Moving ahead, the relevance of aquaculture in UDF framework. The thing is, aquaculture, the UDF framework, it promotes the pooling of oceanic resources and brings the notion of science and technology to support blue economy, marine planning, and disaster management. So APY analysis is one such technological advancement which we will be looking upon. As Divyan has already taken the blue economy aspects, I will just highlight the fact that the aquaculture currently employs around 3 crore people in India. So that's a large amount and large number of rural communities involved in this. So what's the importance of APY analysis? So let me ask you 3 problems: that how policymakers can know the current aquaculture status of the country, and how is the country growing in terms of aquaculture? How farmers can figure out the best practices for cultivation so they can get the least wastage and maximum output, and how government can tackle which coastal regions are most susceptible to the threats of climate change. If one thinks that government can contact each farmer to know the status, that looks cheap, but not at all feasible, and it will turn out to be costly in the long run. So that's where APY analysis comes into picture. In APY analysis, the Y or the yield of the farm is tracked only by using the water quality parameters that are sensed using physical sensors. No human intervention or farmer intervention is needed. Policymakers have the complete productivity data state-wise as well as country-wise. The modeling in this aspect requires Internet of Things as well as machine learning. The second, the area prospect is like demarcating the land cover in which the land is used for the cultivation. By that, the government knows that where the land is used and for what purpose. This requires some amount of farmer intervention to give the details, as well as the remote sensing can be employed here. The government knows the current production status of the country, as well as farmers know the state of their farm and what the expected returns in terms of yield or money they can expect. The current APY analysis work is built on the infrastructure where the idea is using the water quality parameters. If the feed of the organism is optimized as well as the space, according to Department of Fisheries instructions, only the water quality parameters are tracked by sensors and the growth is directly dependent on that. So the subject is to formulate this growth rate based on the water parameters, and mathematically this formulation will be a map or a function. And theoretically, machine learning has been proven that any map can be created if a valid data set is available to formulate any function. So the existing research which has been carried out observe such patterns, but there is a major limitation that they never leverage the available technology to make it scalable at the ground level. So in our methodology, we have acquired some of the data, but it's not adequate to fit large multivariate analysis and concepts. So under certain assumptions, variables are combined and insightful observations are given. Complex ML architectures, as mentioned here, can be used when the real-time data is available and for the modeling. The work is going in some phases. So we have acquired the data from some crucial journals as well as from NPDA for the first phase. In the second phase, the MRC is going on ground to plant the sensors to acquire data to do the time series data acquisition about shrimps and seaweeds, as well as a current model is being developed, as my colleague will display, and where there are some argument based on the basis of academia and some theory. But in phase two, the complex insights can be gained by using ML as well as the real-time data available. As well as in phase one, the GUI is developed, but in that requires manual intervention. But in phase two, it will be all automatic. The sensors will directly communicate to the backend model, and only the insightful results are shared with the farmers as well as the government. So what's the proposition for the farmers and government? The government promotes the aquaculture in certain region. Farmers are needed to acquire a farm for the cultivation. Now farmer puts the sensor system in the pond or reservoir. Then the government also now know from this sensor system a digital footprint of the farmer is anyway created of the farm. So the government knows the statistics about the farm. The sensor fetches the water quality data over time. Our backend algorithm verifies if the quality is favorable and what the recommendation should be to correct those. And farmer needs to rectify those. The government can also intervene to help them, and that will maximize the overall productivity of the country. So this is the notion of modern aquaculture, which tries to interleave Internet of Things and machine learning along with computer vision to enhance the productivity and current state of aquaculture infrastructure. There are certain challenges involving the relevant data, the lack of relevant data and framework. Apart from that, since this is involving a live species or a live organism, living organism, so every organism have different metabolism in response to external stimuli. So separate modeling have to be created for every different species. Here we use NPDA production data in order to know which species are under the subject of interest. So we are going with the Vanamei species for shrimp, for example, and my work focuses on shrimps as well as seaweeds, considering their growth and necessity in Indian Ocean. In terms of operational challenges, the need of capital investment is required, and the intervention of government is crucial for the implementation on the ground for the farmers. With this, I end my presentation, and the quote that give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. So that's how this aquaculture supports bioeconomy. We are trying to help rural communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Shlok. Thank you so much. Next, we have Soumya with us representing. In the meanwhile, I would also request the others to keep their mics off because it disturbs the presenter by presenting. So.
Hello everyone, I am Soumya. I am RC intern currently pursuing tech at IIT Delhi. I am working on a stepping up digital tool for AP analysis of shrimp and seaweed farming that Slok has just talked about. Here is the content for the same, that is introduction about the tool, area yield production trend and yield parameter relationship, and next their usage and application, and last tool graphical user interface. So the study aims to conduct unique area production and yield, that is APY analysis, focusing on aquaculture in the Indian Ocean region to determine a sustainable growth rate. So talking about the tool, APY tools are being developed to facilitate real-time data analysis for shrimp and seaweed farming, offering two features: available data and parameter-based analysis. These tools enable estimation of production and yield by mapping input parameters to the desired output. So this is the first part of the tool. This is required to in a stability and risk assessment by highlighting the region having the negative growth pattern or high variability of production. For the input, we have to select the species and the state, and it will output the production growth rate and other parameter values, and also the graph about the area and production with respect to the year. So the next part of the tool is yield parameter relationship. It involves establishment and verification of relation about the obtained yield with the parameter affecting the yield. So the input parameter we have take is a species, temperature, stocking density, salinity, pH, and feed quality and feed quantity. So it will output the observation like estimated feed rate and expected survival rate, total biomass production. So talking about the application of the APY tool in shrimp and seaweed farming are as follows. It is used for real-time data analysis, in stability and risk assessment, parameter-based analysis, and estimated production and yield on the input parameter. So this information helps farmer plan and forecast their production. So the APY tool can be utilized by various stakeholders, including shrimp and seaweed farmers, aquaculture researchers and scientists, aquaculture consultants, and also the information can be used for industry analysis, for benchmarking and policy making purposes. So talking about the tool graphical user interface, how it looks, it shows the both part of the tool, option to switch for each tool. So here is the result of the tool with parameters like production growth rate, area, CV and production CV, and along with the graph. This is the graph obtained for Tamil Nadu. So here is the live demonstration of the tool. So this is a login page. After logging in, we come to the home page. And from here, we can go to the index of the tool. And here we have to select the species. And from here, we have both the tool, and for the first tool, we have to select the species. And the state. And here it shows the result with the parameters and the values like production growth rate and area dependence and area effect. And also the graph, this is the production with respect to the year for Kerala state. This is area under cultivation with respect to the year. So for the next tool, I will also show. So for the yield parameter relationship, we have to select the species. Suppose I select shrimps. And here we have to select the species, and again have to give the certain parameters. Like I randomly fill that, and so. So it will output the observation about the growth rate, estimated final weight, and estimated feed conversion ratio, and whether it's optimal or not. So this is for the shrimp farm. Similarly, we can check for the seaweed farm after selecting the species at seaweed. So I am concluding the presentation with a quote: no water, no life, no blue, no green. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Soumya. Thanks for the demonstration. I think it was quite insightful to see the APY compute tool. Next, we'll quickly get on to Balaji's presentation, who will be speaking on APY analysis for cap farming. Balaji, we can't hear you. Have you started your presentation? If you have, then we would.
Achha, I have. Okay. Hello.
Yes, you're audible.
I will start again. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Kothindi Sai Balaji, an intern at MRC. I am going to discuss about digital tool for APY analysis of carp farming. Now let's go into the details. This slide contains introduction about my project, methods followed on carp farming, some observations about the digital tool, and the future scope of the digital tool. Let's begin by understanding why carp farming is so important. Carp species such as Katla, Rohu, and Mrigal are not only economically valuable, but also play a crucial role in meeting the growing demand for fish. Specifically, I have focused my research on the Godavari River and the Hooghly River regions, where carp farming has high potential in India. Now, why this digital tool? Well, it's because farmers need a tool that can provide insights into the growth patterns and how the parameters are related in carp farming. And that's what the our tool area production yield do. Now let's go into the methods of carp farming. Before adding fish to the ponds, all aquatic weeds are carefully removed to create an optimal environment. Feeding management is key. As soon as the pond is stocked with fish seed, feeding must begin. We also closely monitor key water quality parameters such as pH, temperature, dissolved oxygen, salinity, total dissolved solids, and conductivity. Additionally, we should assess the fish growth performances and yields by regularly sampling a percentage of fish from each experimental ponds. Now moving to the observations. Based on the observations, I have discovered some of these optimum water quality parameters for carp farming, including a pH of range 6 to 9, dissolved oxygen levels between 4 to 8 milligram per liter, transparency of 25 to 40 centimeters, and a temperature range of 10 to 35 degrees Celsius, while the optimal salinity is about 0 to 5 PSU, but carp can tolerate a maximum of up to 9 PSU. Furthermore, we found that carp species sourced from the wild yield higher net profit and return of investment ROI compared to those from hatcheries. Now let's talk about the digital tool. This tool takes into account all the parameters discussed so far and builds machine learning models using the available data. By simply entering the parameters into the tool, farmers receive an output that tells them whether the conditions are optimal or not. So how this tool benefit the farmers? It makes them it makes their work easier, saves them time, and provides exciting insights into the carp farming operations. My plan to create the tool is well, it involves several stages, including data preprocessing, deploying the machine learning model, and developing a user-friendly front-end interface. And that is tool can guide farmers towards making informed decisions and achieving better outcomes. Finally, let's explore the future scope of this tool. We can build an AI for disease detection in carp farming, as early detection of diseases is crucial for preventing large-scale losses in the future. Additionally, we aim to promote sustainable growth through the concept of the blue economy, and by implementing optimal feeding regimes, we can ensure maximum fish growth while minimizing feed waste. I would like to conclude and leave you with a quote from Paul Greenberg. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, Balaji. Next, we have 3 presentations coming up on the topic climate change. So first, Radhika is going to be speaking about economic impact of climate change on seaweed shrimp. Radhika, please introduce yourself and share your presentation, please.
Very good afternoon to everyone. I am Radhika Agarwal, and I am third year BSMS economics students from IIT Roorkee, and I am currently a research intern at MRC. So my topic is economic impact of climate change on shrimp farming. So these are the content of my slides. Introduction of shrimp farming, effects of climate change, trends on shrimp production, exports, greenhouse gas emissions and temperature, how climate change affects shrimp production and exports, conclusion and references. Introduction. Shrimp farming is an aquaculture business that exists in either marine or freshwater environments, producing shrimp for human consumption. Water conditions required for shrimp farming are temperature, pH, dissolved oxygen, salinity, nitrate, nitrogen, and etc. So here, how are we assessing climate change? We are assessing climate change by seeing the greenhouse gas emissions over the years. And I would like to discuss what are the effects of climate change. They are hotter temperature, rising sea level, changes in rainfall patterns, severe storms and droughts, and change in acidity and salinity of water. So I was analyzing the trends in Andhra Pradesh. So these are the trends of area under production, then what are the production rates over the years, then what is the quantity exported, and what was the value which we have derived. So as we can see over the years, area under cultivation, then production, export, and value of export have risen. Then I have the data analysis of greenhouse gas emissions and temperature in Andhra Pradesh. We can see that over the years, the greenhouse gas emissions and temperature has considerably decreased. So I would like to conclude that as the greenhouse gas emissions and temperature decreases, there is increase in the production and the quantity export. So I would like to drive a correlation that somewhere or somewhat there is a relation between production and quantity export and greenhouse gas emissions and temperature. This is the flow chart by which I would like to depict that how climate change affects shrimp production, exports, income, and economy. As we can see, as temperature rises due to more greenhouse gas emissions, there is increase in algal bloom, causing toxin release into water, reducing dissolved oxygen concentrations, leading to pathogen spread. Hence, shrimp mortality may increase due to high water temperature. To bring a fact out that the required temperature range for shrimp production is 26 degrees Celsius to 31 degrees Celsius. So next, coming to the sea level rise. As the sea level rises, the availability of wild coast larvae decreases. Therefore, the farmers face difficulties in shrimp farming. Then, rainfall is not nice for shrimp farming. The extreme rainfall can cause a havoc on shrimp culture. Due to heavy rainfall, there is decrease in water salinity and temperature, which cause outbreak of diseases like white spot syndrome. Flooding can cause water turbidity with pollutants decrease because pollutants decrease light penetration, which in turn hinders photosynthesis and reduces dissolved oxygen. Dissolved oxygen content is very important for shrimp farming. The dissolved oxygen range required for shrimp farming is between 3 ppm to 4.5 ppm. If dissolved oxygen is less than 3 ppm, then this can pose a astounding effect on the health of shrimps. Then coming to the next, the pH level. The pH range of water should be between 6.8 to 8.7, whereas due to more carbon dioxide emission, the dissolved oxygen concentration in the water is increasing, causing the water to be acidic, hence decreasing the pH, which is harmful for shrimps. Shrimps grow in saline water. The salinity of water should be between 10 to 25 ppt. Any deviation from this range decreases pathogen resistance of shrimps and cause disease outbreak. Hence, we can conclude that climate change imposes direct impact on shrimp farming. Any deviation from above parameters of shrimp farming lead to decrease in production and cause shrimp mortality, hence affecting the income of shrimp farmers. Also, the decrease in production lead to decrease in exports, clearly posing an impact on economy of the country. So these are the conclusions which I have summed up in this slide. And at last, I want to say that India has a lot of potential to improve in shrimp farming and aquaculture. It can become the first largest exporter of shrimps. Currently, India is the second largest exporter of shrimps. Hence, India can boost its economy through aquaculture. The need is to come up with methods that decrease the greenhouse gas emissions and provide required conditions for aquaculture to bloom. That's all from my side. These are the references. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you. Thanks, Radhika. Next, can we have Akshay now, who will be presenting
Yes,
on the
ma'am.
impact of climate change on
Yes,
ocean
ma'am.
acidification?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Akshay Bhugade, working as an MRC intern. I am here to give the presentation on the topic of quantifying the impact of climate change on ocean acidification using machine learning. So these are the flow or content of my presentation, include introduction, need of study, objective, existing model, need of machine learning model, and references. So coming to the introduction part, ocean acidification is the process of increasing acidity of the seawater due to absorption of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Generally, ocean water is a little alkaline, but our present day ocean are getting more acidic. Hence, the pH of the surface ocean water has dropped by 0.1 unit since the Industrial Revolution. That might not sound like a lot, but the pH scale is logarithmic, not linear. So that 0.1 drop is equivalent to 30% increase in the acidity. Ocean acidification is not a phenomenon that human can feel or see, but it literally changing the chemistry of the ocean, and animals are not used to that. Coming to the next part, why there is need to study ocean acidification. Ocean, it acts like a sponge. It absorbs nearly 30% of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. When absorbed carbon dioxide undergo chain of chemical reaction, it leads to reduction of availability of carbonation, and it impacts the marine classifiers such as oyster, mussels, shellfish, and coral because of fewer carbonation. It makes the shell of this animal weak, brittle, and deformed. Ocean acidification has indirect effect on marine life, such as early life stage of fish can particularly vulnerable to the ocean acidification. So they don't grow as quickly, or they don't grow as large as they can in normal condition. So it is also observed that the olfactory system in fish, which essentially like their ability to smell, can be impacted in some species. So they are not able to find food or avoid predators as effectively they can in normal condition. So it is also affecting the seafood industry and the tourism. So coming to the objective, the two main objectives of my research are to create machine learning model that predict ocean pH more accurately than the traditional climate model, and to use the model to discover new pattern in ocean acidification, which will help us to better understand the impact and find way to mitigate its effect. So the existing climate model are Earth system model, biogeochemical model, and the ocean circulation model. Assessing ocean acidification through climate model poses challenges due to the need of accurately representing sample biogeochemical process, their interaction with the physical climate system, also parameterization of the subgrid scale processes such as biological responses and the carbonate chemistry dynamic present challenges in accurately capturing the spatial and temporal variability of ocean acidification. Ocean acidification in climate model. So some of these limitation overcome using machine learning model. Hence, we need the machine learning model. Machine learning model offers several advantages over traditional climate model. Machine learning model captures the complex non-linear relationship and interaction between acidification factor, leading to more accurate prediction. Machine learning model reveal new pattern and insight about the ocean acidification, enhancing our understanding of the ocean acidification, its impact on marine ecosystem. These are the references I have used, and I conclude my discussion with the quote: "We are the first generation to feel the effect of climate change, and the last generation who can do something about it." Thank you.
Thank you, Akshay. Thanks for your quote as well. I mean, it's a very popular one. Next, we have Nayak, who will be closing the presentation on climate change sequence. He's going to be speaking about climate change impact in the Indian Ocean region.
Hello everyone, my name is Kumar Naik. I'm intern at MRC. So today I will be dealing with climate change impact in Indian Ocean region. So these were the contents I will be going through now. So as a definition to the climate change, I would like to go with United Nations definition of climate change, which refers to a long shift global weather pattern and changes in average temperatures that would result in increased temperatures, rising sea levels, and frequent and extreme impacts of climate change like floods, heat waves, and droughts. So here I have chosen the specific case of Indian Ocean region. So the reason is that among the world tropical bodies, Indian Ocean region is most fastest changing to the climate change impacts, and also it is faster heating than any other tropical water bodies. And around 1/3 of world population is living in this region, and also a quarter of world trade passes through this region as well. So it is very important to understand climate change impact in the Indian Ocean region. So these were few things that has already impacted in that ocean region. Geographically, Indian Ocean region represents only 13%, but despite it is absorbing 25% of oceanic heat. So this is extremely huge amount. And secondly, the sea surface temperatures were extremely impacting IOR region, and also there were global changes like wildfires in Australia and other parts of the world. And in the last 2 or 3 decades, there was an average rise of 3.28 millimeters of sea level rise in the Indian Ocean region. Further, there will be inherent impacts in the IOR, like it will be significantly influencing the Maiden-Julian oscillations and so in Pacific Ocean. So this will be having a significant impact in global weather patterns. So the gap is here. The gap here is that there was very little knowledge about Indian Ocean region, as one of MRC fellows has already reminded that 80% of IOR is still left unexplored. So there was a huge existing knowledge gap here, which needs to be studied further. So in order to get more understanding, in 2006, the Indian Observing System has been formed. It is a scientific community under the Global Observing System. So it has broadly focusing on to get more scientific understanding on knowledge about IOR region. So here I have given a basic map. This is for the decade 20 for this decade. However, this was induced to just preview of that thing. So the objectives of this study is to see if industrialization, the economic growth in the form of industrialization has given to more induced emissions in the atmosphere. And the second objective is to see whether if CO2 emissions are to be blamed for changing climate patterns in the form of variables considering temperature, salinity, and alkalinity. This will be detailed later. So the third objective is seeing broader policy, whether there was any existing policy to address these issues. So these were the 3 parameters I have considered. The first one is temperature, so which has fundamental role in shaping the physical biochemical characteristics of the ocean. And also there were few other characteristics the temperature will be reshaping. So few of them are ocean circulation, density and stratification, heat exchanges. And also the ocean dynamics will be significantly changed by the sea surface temperature. So here you can see the anomaly, how the sea surface temperatures were varying across the tropical bodies and over the oceans. And you can clearly notice that Indian Ocean region is heating extremely faster than other regions. So the second parameter is salinity. Salinity will be having impact on, it will be changing the characteristic in the ocean region of water density and circulation, sea ice formation in the polar regions, and water balances. You can also see the graph of that, how salinity is varying. So, however, in the Arabian in Indian Ocean compared to Arabian Sea, the Bay of Bengal region is having relatively less salinity because there was inland fresh water that was continuously coming in, which was just balancing that. So, third parameter is alkalinity, which is very fundamental in understanding the acidification of the Indian Ocean region. So, the expected outcomes will be very corresponding to the mentioned objectives. As a part of preliminary analysis, it has already been observed that the economic growth has already given to more induced CO2 emissions in the atmosphere. So the further outcomes were to see if CO2 has really to do with changing these variables in the Indian Ocean region. And they were studying the existing policies. As of now, there exists very limited and not addressing overall impact of climate change in oceans. Recently there was high-class sea treaties. Apart from that, there was very less policies or treaties internationally addressing these issues. The future study will be to see how the change in the IOR region has impacting the nation, economically nations, on how they were impacting. There will be like livelihoods or economic impacts like trade and other things. These are few references I have given. Thank you.
Thank you, Nayak. These were the presentations on climate change. Next, we have water management as a subject on which we have presentations. We have Vanshita, who's going to be speaking on groundwater management in Brahmaputra Basin.
Yeah, hello. 1 second. Hello everyone. I'm Vanshita. I'm an intern at MRC. I'm working on a project, groundwater management in India. I'll be putting forward a machine learning model for predicting groundwater levels and quality. Moving forward, these are the contents that I'll be going through during my presentation. First up, introduction. So as we all know that groundwater is a vital source for India, and it supports various sectors such as agriculture, industry, and it is also used for domestic purposes. But due to the rapid growth and increasing water demands, um, it has put a significant pressure on groundwater reserves, and the human contamination has also deteriorated the quality of groundwater. So this research basically focuses on developing the ML model for predicting levels and quality, aiming to enhance sustainable water resource management. Moving forward, so this figure clearly depicts why is there a significant need for an ML model. So the classical models that exist as of now, they lack the understanding of complex hydrological systems and they require larger number of data. In contrast, artificial intelligence or ML models, they are able to cope up with data that is currently available. And it is also able to analyze the non-linear data, which is not the case with classical models. Moving forward, so these are the parameters that I'll be using for predicting water quality, pH, hardness, solid, chloramines, and all that. Moving forward, the methodology. So this is a rough idea what I'll be doing. First up, data collection, then processing it, feature engineering, building an MN model, and then validating it with the real-time data. Next up, the future scope. So I'll be looking forward to enhancing the machine learning model by incorporating additional variables such as extraction rate, aquifer properties, and climate change projections. Exploring ensemble models and hybrid models that combine multiple machine learning algorithms to improve prediction accuracy. Um, and I'll be collecting real groundwater data for validation and continuous improvement. We can also collaborate with local stakeholders, government agencies, and water management organizations to implement the developed model for practical uses. Next up, conclusions. So this research project is solely focused on developing this model as a whole. And through our analysis, I'll try to demonstrate the potential of machine learning techniques in accurately predicting the groundwater levels and assessing groundwater quality. These are the references that I've used. Yeah, thank you. I'd like to conclude.
Thank you, Vanshita. I'll call Sneha Sahu, who will be speaking on impact of water quality change in aquaculture. Sneha, you can make the presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sneha Sahu. I'm a MRC intern at summer intern at MRC. I'm presenting on the topic of the impact of water quality on aquaculture. So these are the content. Then why we need to study why we need to study on this topic. Since the success and sustainability of aquaculture depend on water quality, water quality water quality has impact on health, growth, and reproduction of aquatic animals. Also, understanding water quality is crucial for optimizing output and preserving environmental balance. So I'm going. So now the parameters affecting water quality. There are many parameters. Catchment area, the area present near the river or the small tributary which mixes with the river. The temperature, pH, dissolved oxygen, biological oxygen demand, nitrate concentration, and conductivity. So this is it is as is seen in this graph. It is a statistical data of Brahmaputra River at Dibrugarh district. The data is taken from the Central Pollution Control Board. It is based on the parameters pH, DO, BOD, conductivity, and nitrate concentration. As in this graph, it is seen in 2020 and 2021. the water quality is in the good state for many aqua species. It is mainly due to the less industrial activity during the because of the COVID that restriction, and there are less nitrate concentration in the concentration in the river, and the decrease in conductivity also. So we have an advancement in managing water quality. So challenges are pollution and contamination, fluctuating water parameters, sedimentation because it led to depletion in oxygen level, reduces light penetration into the water. Turbidity because turbid water condition can hinder the feeding behavior and food conversion efficiency of aquaculture. These both affect the growth and health of the species. Then disease risk and the limited water availability because it limited water availability can present challenges in monitoring and managing water quality parameters. Then there are many advancements such as water treatment technologies, recirculating aquaculture system, real-time monitoring of water quality parameters, integrated aquaculture system, policy and regulatory framework. So that now the relation of water quality and aquaculture, uh, oxygen level affect the aquaculture since less oxygen level led to stress, reduced growth, mortality, and then there's a requirement of the optimum temperature for the species below and above that level, negative impact on health and performance of the species. Then pH led to health issues, suspended parting and turbidity affect feeding efficiency of aquatic organisms, and nutrient imbalance led to harmful algal blooms and oxygen depletion. The future scope of this research is better water treatment technologies by finding the parameters which mostly affect the water quality, then better water resource management strategies, integrated aquaculture system, and better policies, regulatory, and framework. So these are the references I used, and thank you.
Thank you, Sneha. Next, we have Chirag. Chirag, please take up and speak about yourself and your presentation topic.
Yes, ma'am. So, hi everyone. My name is Chirag Chawankare. I'm currently working as an MRC intern, and I'm also a BTech third year student at IIT Delhi. And my topic of research is real-time sensor-based water quality management system. This would be the content of my presentation. It goes like, firstly we'll start with introduction, then we'll talk about WSN and IoT based system, then we'll talk about NSF WQI evaluation, then we'll take up the case of Khadakwasla Lake that is in Pune, and after that we'll talk about application and future scope. So starting with the introduction, as we know, the 21st century is the century of pollution, global warming, insecurity, and vulnerable health factors. Water pollution is a major problem in front of the world today. Water
Chirag,
pollution, yes.
sorry for interrupting, but your presentation doesn't seem to be moving. Like, is there some issue or? Yeah, now you're on the introduction part. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, I was starting up with the introduction. So why is water quality important? According to surveys, water contamination is the main global source of fatalities and diseases. Records indicate that more than 14,000 individuals pass away every day in the world. Also, every day 580 individuals in India succumb to diseases linked to water contamination. That is why detection of water quality is an important aspect. Now, our proposed model is real-time water quality monitoring system. Given here are the two examples. First is WSN-based system. It uses different sensors and it also collects various parameters such as temperature, pH, oxygen density, turbidity, etc. There are basically three broad components in this system, which are data monitoring nodes, base station, and remote station, as you can see from the block diagram. Also, The remote monitoring system consists of a Zigbee module which will receive the data sent by database station. This data will be fed to a server PC consisting of graphic user interface GUI via serial communication. The obtained data will be represented graphically with the help of MATLAB and will be saved for further reference. Moving on with the IoT based system, it can also measure the parameters such as temperature, pH, turbidity, and flow sensor. The main difference here is the central control system, that is Arduino Uno based microcontroller, and the mode of data transfer that is facilitated by a Wi-Fi system and internet. So these are the proposed model from our end. And after that we'll talk about the water quality index method that will integrate in the system. So we have chosen a National Sanitation Foundation water quality index method. This is because it is generally used to evaluate surface water quality in various water components. Also, because it contains more than 10 parameters, including dissolved oxygen, biological oxygen demand, pH, fecal coliform, etc. And these parameters are one of the main constituents in the pollution that is happening in Khadakwasla Lake due to untreated sewage disposal. After getting the water quality index, we can come to know about its class, whether it is excellent, good, medium, bad, or very bad by checking its WQI range. Now moving on, we'll take up the case of Khadakwasla Lake. So here we have the following data from National Water Informatics Center and also from CPCB. Here, as we can see, that we have the latest data from 2021, and we don't have the latest data from year 22 or 2023. So from this we can come to know that the real-time water quality management or real-time water quality detection is very important to move towards the solution part. Also, according to Namami Chandrabhaga report, the 2019, the water along the stretch of river between Khadakwasla Dam and Mundwa Bridge was found to be of poor quality, as the dissolved oxygen reduces by 42.6%, and there was an increase in BOD also. But since it was the report from year 2019, we don't have the recent data uh, to which we can look forward to. Now, what would be the application of talking about the application of our proposed model? It can help in real-time water quality monitoring with the measured parameters observed through these sensors. Water quality index can be calculated instantaneously, and with water quality index, it can be placed in various water quality classes accordingly. Uh, Also, problematic areas of the water body can be identified and alerted to the user instantly if any parameter value goes beyond ideal standards, that is hotspot detection. And we can also measure the health of aquaculture by observing the values of dissolved oxygen and BOD of water quality, as it highly as health of aquaculture is highly dependent on these parameters. It is also an important tool for organizations to kickstart their approach towards solution methods. And with the help of an HD camera, we can with the help of integration of an HD camera, we can uh, detect any suspicious activity in the surroundings. This is the additional application in our proposed model. Now, talking about the future scope, integration of many other sensors is a very beneficial scope for us, as it is important to calculate WQI, of course, and helps in a thorough study of water quality. Now, GPS tracking. Integration of GPS tracking is also a must step, as it will help in monitoring water quality of a particular location from a remote control. Now, talking about the cost effectiveness and overall efficiency, we can research whether WSN or IoT, which is more feasible to us. And moving on, integration of this disruption networking technology will help in prevention of data loss during intermittent or limited network connectivity. So that is also an important aspect for a future scope. So yeah, that was all from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chirag. Next, we have Athar, and I would like Athar to introduce himself and talk about his presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mohammad Badr Ansari. I am working as an intern at MRC, and I am also currently pursuing my MTech in Assistant Science and Technology from IIT Kharagpur. Topic of my project is machine learning-based estimation of nutrient concentration in Brahmaputra River. So the content of my presentation include the background of my topic, objectives, negative effect of excessive nutrients, drawback of previous sampling method, and need of machine learning model, and then references. Let us understand the background of my topic. Rivers hold a variety of nutrients, including natural elements and those from external sources, which are very much important for growth and development of plants, algae, and aquatic animals. The composition of nutrient in a river can vary depending on factors such as the river's location, the way the land around it is used, and the activities of the people in that particular area. Some of the very common nutrients that can be found in the rivers are nitrogen, phosphorus, calcium, iron, sulfur, etc. Basically, all these nutrients come from different sources, such as the runoff from the agricultural activities, sewage waste, or natural weathering of rocks. Excessive amounts of nutrient can have significant impact on ecosystem and water bodies. That is why maintaining a balance is important to avoid pollution and negative impact on the water bodies. High riverine nutrient concentration can cause eutrophication and degrade water quality. Let us see that why it is necessary to study nutrients in water. As we all know that nutrients play a vital role in supporting the growth and development of organisms, but excessive amount of nutrients will have some harmful effects. So those harmful effects are, the first one is eutrophication. Eutrophication happens when water bodies receive excessive nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, and it leads to overgrowth of algae and plants. As a result, the water becomes murky and green, which harms the fish and disrupts the ecosystem balance. Oxygen depletion. This occurs when excess nutrient in water can cause rapid growth of algae and aquatic plants. When the organism die and decompose, bacteria consume oxygen, leading to low O2 level in the water. Water quality degradation. Water quality degrades when too many nutrients in water make it unclear, dirty, and smelly. Impact on human health. Nutrient pollution can harm humans through contaminated drinking water and seafood. So there are two main objectives of my topic. The first one is to study about the various nutrients in Brahmaputra River, which involves the study of water quality in Brahmaputra River and identification of various water pollution sources surrounding the river. The another important objective is to develop a machine learning model for estimation of nutrient concentration. There were two methods which were used for measurement of water quality parameters, and they have certain drawbacks. Talking about conventional field sampling, it is used to study the level of nutrient concentration and other parameters. It has some drawbacks like the sampling is done infrequently, which makes it hard to fully understand how nutrients change over time and estimate their impact accurately. Additionally, it is an expensive and time-consuming process, and it also does not cover a wide area. Talking about online water quality sensor, the problem of infrequent sampling was solved by using this sensor as it enables frequent measure of conventional indicator like pH, temperature, conductivity, turbidity, but it's still difficult and costly to measure certain key nutrients regularly with these sensors. Also, there are some other drawbacks like sensor failure, probe damage, and limited area of coverage because we cannot deploy all these sensors all over the river. That is why there is a need of machine learning model in this domain. So the need of machine learning in this domain is because machine learning offers more frequent estimation of water quality indicators compared to conventional sampling and online sensor approaches. It can analyze data in real time. It can continuously monitor water quality. It can also generate data quickly without extensive lab analysis and improve prediction over time. So from this, we can conclude that these advantages of ML can surpass the limitation of traditional method, enabling more effective water quality assessment and management. These are the references which I've gone through. So I'll end up this presentation with a quote of Albert Einstein: "Imagination is more important than knowledge." Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Athar. We have 3 more presentations left, and the next topic of discussion is going to be urban flood management. I'd like to call Meenakshi, who's going to be speaking on the topic. So please come and speak about your presentation, Meenakshi.
Yeah, sure. Yes, so very good afternoon, everyone. First of all, a very happy Oceans Day. And so my research topic is water resource management for the riverine systems of Brahmaputra, a case study of urban flooding and mitigation management using hydrodynamics models. And myself, Meenakshi Ganesh, and I'm a postgraduate student from Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati. Okay, so these are the contents that I'll be discussing with you all now: the problem statement, literature review, and what is the need for modeling approaches, and what will be the solutions, future scope, and the limitations. So first of all, why do we study the urban flood issues? So urban flooding assessment is an integral part of watershed management because urban areas are part of larger watersheds. So how urban flooding assessment fits within the framework of watershed management due to its hydrological connectivity, due to its surface water quality and impacts on downstream areas, and integrated water management, community engagement and policy and decision making is very important. And studying urban flooding provides scientific evidences and data-driven insights to inform policy and decision making process, because as we all know, natural and human development factors are the major influencing cities for this urban flooding. So coping with flooding in expanding urban areas and also increasing population is a major challenge for decision makers on all levels, from local to national. So what are the limitations on the previous available models? So like monitoring of land use, land cover changes, and like temporal resolution changes, and a changing urban environment hasn't been considered so far in the past researchers. By the past researchers, and climate change is altering the precipitation patterns and also it increasing the frequency and intensity of rainfall events. There is a complex urban features that should be that those intricate features should be incorporated in all this model. So that are all the past limitations. And also like limited socioeconomic considerations. There is a lack of long-term analysis, and there is a knowledge gaps and emerging challenges are there. So urban flooding is a complex and evolving field of study, and there are still knowledge gaps and emerging challenges that need further exploration, like the interventions and climate change predictions and the integration and cascading effects of the urban flooding. So we need satellite-based monitoring to frequently monitor. So why satellite-based monitoring? As we all know, there is data availability and quality, scale, and spatial and temporal scale. Spatial and temporal scale phenomena can be studied, and methodological differences can be approached by these satellite monitoring issues. And there's a lack of long-term analysis that can be overcome by this satellite-based monitoring technology. And there are several satellites and sensors for monitoring urban flooding are available that provides very high spatial and temporal resolution that can be used for the urban flooding. So that we are using. So we are approaching high resolution 3D and 2D, 1D hydrodynamic modeling and Google Earth Engine based flood inundation mapping to develop the accurate models of the various watersheds. And the key to success for this state-of-the-art technology advances in hydrologic and hydraulic river modeling is to effectively and efficiently develop the accurate models of various watershed using HECRIS and also using various Google Earth Engine machine learning models. So urban flooding modeling plays a crucial role in watershed management, as I have told. So hydrodynamic modeling is very, very helpful to study the flood vulnerability, flood dynamics, land use planning, and enhancing the emergency preparedness and informing policy and decision makings. So future scope and challenges for the flood management would be the green infrastructure and the climate change and the population growth. So the first three are very, very important, as there is a high need to study all this. And there's an infrastructure resilience of critical infrastructure systems such as dams and drainage networks is very essential for effective flood management, and data and technology and ecosystem based approaches. And also urban planning and design is very, very important. It should prioritize the flood resistant design principles that includes all the flood resistant materials and green spaces which act as a water reservoirs during the heavy rainfall events. These are the future scope of the project. And major challenges in the flood environment will be the funding and the governance and coordination. So public awareness and engagement is very important. And land use planning and the data and technology and the ecosystem based approaches should be definitely there, as we have to consider the transboundary rivers and shared water resources that require the international cooperation. So here I would like to finish with this quote: like, climate change is not just about the hotter summers and rising sea levels, right? It is also it's also about the increasing unpredictability and intensity of extreme weather events such as floods, droughts, tsunamis, etc. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Meenakshi. I think that was a very illustrious presentation. Next, we have Rishikesh, who's going to be speaking on passive sonar simulation tools. So, Rishikesh, quickly make us go through your presentation, and please introduce yourself and about your work.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rishikesh Ajay Nanaviri. Currently pursuing my BTech from IIT Delhi, and as a research intern at MRC, my topic that I'm working on is effective detection algorithm for passive sonar simulator. These are the content that we'll go through in this presentation. I'll be talking about passive sonar, the challenges that we face, and what are the technologies that we use, what is the need for an effective detection algorithm, and the strategy that I'll be adopting during my research internship at MRC. So, sonar, short for sound navigation and ranging, is a technology used to detect objects underwater. There are two types of sonar technologies: active sonar and passive sonar. Active sonar involves emitting sound waves and measuring the time it takes for them to bounce back, while passive sonar relies on detecting sounds emitted by other sources. That means active sonar has an emitter as well as a receiver, whereas passive sonar only has a receiver. Active sonar can provide more accurate data, but also reveals the location of the emitter, which makes it easier to detect and track. Passive sonar is less intrusive, but may not provide as much detail. Now, as we discussed, passive sonar technology works by detecting sound waves emitted by objects in water, such as submarine or marine animals. The sound waves travel through the water and are picked up by hydrophones, which are specialized microphones designed to operate underwater. Once these sound waves are detected, they are analyzed to determine the location, speed, and direction of the object emitting them. Typically, these tools are mounted on underwater vehicles such as submarine, AUV, ROVs, etc. Some of the applications are submarine detection, marine biology research, and oceanography. Now, what are the challenges? Ambient noise in water. One of the main difficulties in distinguishing between the sounds emitted by object of interest, that is the target, and other ambient noise in the water, such as waves, marine life, and weather patterns. Another challenge is detecting objects that are designed to be stealthy, such as submarines. These vessels are specifically designed to emit as little noise as possible, making them difficult to detect using passive sonar technology. Now, coming to another topic, SOFA channel. SOFA channel, or sound fixing and ranging channel, is a horizontal layer of water in the ocean at which depth the speed of the sound is at its minimum. The SOFA channel acts as a natural waveguide for low frequency sound waves, allowing them to propagate over large distances with minimum transmission loss. By strategically positioning passive sonar sensors in key areas of the deep ocean, it becomes possible to exploit the long-range propagation of low-frequency sound waves. But here's the catch. A typical The typical depth of a SOFA channel in Indian Ocean is around 1500 meters to 1800 meters, as we can see in the sound speed profile of the western region of the Indian Ocean. And the typical depth of submarine is 300 meters to 450 meters. Hence, the need for an effective detection algorithm. Now, let us discuss some of the commonly used detection algorithms. First one being the simplest method, the detection threshold. To estimate the performance and assist in the design of sonar systems, what we use are the equations called sonar equations, and specifically here, the passive sonar equations. Two of the important parameters are signal to noise ratio and signal access. The signal access is given by the term displayed. The term inside brackets is nothing but the signal to noise ratio in decibels. Now, by this definition, if the signal access is greater than 0, the probability of detection is greater than 50%. To see visually how this works, we'll consider three signals, signal 1, 2, and 3, as shown in figure A. Now, the received signal is in the form of signal C, that is, an envelope of noise is superimposed signals. We can see in the figure C that there are two threshold values, T1 and T2. Now, to further discuss this, let us introduce two parameters, detection probability and false alarm probability. The probability that if a signal is present, the correct signal present is made is called detection probability, and the probability that if a signal is absent and the incorrect decision signal present is made is called the false alarm probability, PFA. If we plot the detection probability and false alarm probability, we'll get a curve which is one of the family of curves called receiver operating curves, the ROC curves. We can see that placing the threshold value high can give a low probability of detection as well as a low false alarm probability. Similarly, vice versa for threshold value T2. However, this method has very limited use. To enhance the overall detection performance, some of the signal processing techniques are commonly used in conjunction with the detection threshold methods, such as adaptive thresholding, filtering, and time frequency analysis. Other detection techniques are beamforming and application of neural networks and machine learning. Beamforming combines signal received by an array of hydrophones to create a focused beam in a specific direction. By comparing the phase and amplitude of the received signals, beamforming algorithms can estimate the bearing and sometimes the range of the target. Now, what is the strategy I will be adopting during my research internship? First, generation of synthetic signal. The first step of the research would involve producing synthetic signals using a Bell-Hop ray tracer. Second, selection of detection algorithms. A variety of detection algorithms would be selected for evaluation. Third would be algorithm implementation and processing. Implementation would be done in Python or suitable programming languages. Performance evaluation metrics. Evaluation will be carried out using parameters such as detection probability, false alarm rate, and ROC curves as discussed earlier. Coming to the conclusion, passive sonar is a critical tool for underwater application and addresses challenges posed by the SOFA channel is essential for advancing detection capabilities. After conducting initial literature survey, determining the most suitable adaptive algorithm is a complex task that depends on several factors, including specific sonar environment, application requirements, and contextual variables. More studies will follow to provide an answer. These are the references for the figures. Now, concluding my presentation, passive sonar is a powerful tool that can be used to detect, track, and identify targets in the water without revealing the presence of a sensor. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Rishikesh. Now we'll move to the concluding part of the presentations, and we have Catherine with us, who works with us as a fellow. Catherine's work mostly, her work revolves around Indus and Brahmaputra River, and I'd like to call her and introduce herself and talk about her work, and of course, the presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Ocean Day. So I'll start my presentation without any further ado. So today I'll be presenting my work on Indus Basin water management from a UDA perspective. So I'll give an introduction. I'll explain what the treaty basin geography is like, and one of the case studies regarding Kishan Ganga, and some of the shortcomings of the treaty, and then my recommendations. So Indus Water Treaty, Indus Basin covers, is a transboundary basin shared between Pakistan, India, Afghanistan, and China. So India has 39% of the basin and Pakistan has 47%. Indus Basin actually, Indus Basin Treaty actually divides the governance of the river based on its eastern tributaries and western tributaries. After the Indus Water Treaty was signed, the eastern tributaries, Satluj, Beas, and Ravi rivers were allotted to India for exclusive use, and the western rivers, namely Indus, Chenab, and Jhelum, were given to Pakistan for exclusive use. So this was arrived at after around 8 to 9 years of negotiation mediated by the World Bank. So a significant historical event happened, but it was not an event in silos. There were various factors that played into how the treaty got its shape. For example, we had recently undergone partition. The World Bank was a new organization which was funding a lot of countries in our area. USA was looking for prestige, so they were looking for events to fund. And we had the Kashmir issue still in transition. So there were several factors that played into how the Indus Water Treaty was formulated. So I won't go into the details, but as you can see, as I explained, there were several factors. So history is very important when we consider how the Indus Basin Treaty is viewed today and how the Indus Basin is managed today. So the major issues in the western rivers today is the need for hydropower for meeting the energy needs, and what are the obstacles that we are facing there. So Indus Water Treaty, as I said, the western rivers have been allotted to Pakistan, but for India, we get the opportunity to use the hydropower potential of the rivers. But we have it is limited to run of the river projects only. But we need to get Pakistan's permission before we actually start implementing any project. So that's one of the major obstacles in the western rivers today. There is issue of flood management, sediment management, and as I of course mentioned, Pakistan's continual objection to construction of any hydropower plant on the western rivers. And there are contradicting interpretations of the treaty, which are leading to that particular objections. And then cross-border terrorism. And one thing I didn't mention here is Kashmir's economic development. That is also one of the major issues on the western rivers right now. On the eastern rivers, we have the water is completely allotted for agriculture use, drinking water use, and between Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, JK, and Delhi. The canal system is around 200 years old, which has resulted in a lot of water loss and water use efficiency. There is a need for value addition and farmer income enhancement. Water and soil quality management is an important issue, and there is extreme water stress in the areas around the eastern rivers. So there are a lot of conflicts around Indus Water Treaty and Indus Basin Management between India and Pakistan. The treaty gives a conflict resolution mechanism wherein the Permanent Indus Commission, formed by two commissioners, one from India and one from Pakistan. They are the initial body which is responsible for taking care of any conflict. If they're not able to do it, then it is referred to either a neutral expert or a court of arbitration. If the problem is technical, a neutral expert is sought. If the problem is regarding the interpretation of the treaty, court of arbitration is sought. So this is the way the treaty is designed. And the treaty is actually applauded by a lot of organizations in the world around for its ability to withstand numerous wars and standoffs between India and Pakistan. So the case study that we are going to discuss here briefly is about Kishan-Ganga conflict. So in Kishan-Ganga, as you can see in the diagram, the top right corner, we have the Kishan-Ganga Dam. So the water is supposed to be channeled from the river Kishan-Ganga through an underground tunnel to a power plant. And from there, the remaining water will be will join Jhelum River through Ular Lake and then enter Pakistan. You can see the line of control. So it's very close to the line of control. Pakistan also has a similar project, Neelam Jhelum project downstreams on Jhelum River. So they have a similar plan with the tunnel and the plant away from the dam. So now what the Pakistan, so when India proposed the project, Pakistan actually hadn't planned its own project. So the treaty says that whoever whoever starts the project first gets, they have the right to actually take it to completion. So when Pakistan started objecting that constructing that dam will affect its future use and impact its economy and future hydropower power development, the Court of Arbitration was convened, and they said that only existing agricultural use and hydroelectric use by Pakistan would be given priority. If that is not affected, India can go ahead with the project. So future uses aren't to be protected. So that's how the Court of Arbitration read the treaty, interpreted the treaty, and it also and also because of the diversion, they said that a minimum quantity of 9 minimum quantity has to be given as an environmental flow. So it is minimum environmental flow and not optimum environmental flow also. So which I found as a little bit backward, because environmental flow changes with season and a minimum doesn't actually make do justice to that concept. And I'll skip this, but there was another issue regarding drawdown flushing. India wanted to use drawdown flushing for sediment flushing, but Pakistan saw that as a security issue. We had another case of Salal project, where our project got filled with sediments within 2 seasons. So in Bagliha Dam, India insisted on drawdown flushing. There was a neutral expert who was called, but he supported India that drawdown flushing can be used. But and using that as a precedent, in Kishan-Ganga, we had drawdown flushing. But Pakistan objected to that, and Court of Arbitration supported Pakistan this time, because saying that they interpreted the treaty differently and said that India will get manipulable storage of water if they have drawdown flushing. So there are these various technical differences and interpretation differences that have been going on for quite some time. So now on January 25th, India issued a notice and the key to Pakistan regarding its intention to amend the treaty. And this is believed to be triggered by the Rattle project, which had similar context as Kishan-Ganga. In 2016, Pakistan asked for a court of arbitration and India wanted a neutral expert because India thought that it's a technical difference. So a neutral expert is enough. But Pakistan insisted on court of arbitration. And World Bank, not knowing what to do, it started both the processes simultaneously. India wasn't happy and we shared a notice with Pakistan to amend the treaty because of all these ambiguities. And also another important point about how we are managing the Indus Basin today, there's a lot of data gaps. We don't have, there's a lot of data insufficiency. So I refer to a number of papers and figured out for each and every attribute, we don't have a concluding data. There are multiple numbers and it's very difficult to manage a river basin when we don't have the required data. So the three domains that we have to focus on when we are amending the treaty or when we are looking for better management of the basin: policy and treaty provision shortcomings, technology and data insufficiency, and geopolitics and geostrategic concerns. This includes our relationship with China, our relationship with Pakistan, and how we are managing that to make sure that we are managing the Indus Basin sustainably and also making sure that we are making economic progress. So my recommendations would be an ecosystem-based framework, a futuristic perspective, and making the existing reservoirs and infrastructure sustainable with better sediment management, river-specific provision. As you can see in the bottom right corner, each river tributary will have a different consequence on the society. For example, each river, cross-border, hybrid, and border tributaries. So based on each and every tributary's biophysical and social context, we need to have recommendations. We need to have provisions in the treaty. Groundwater crisis mapping, spatial planning techniques for water quality and flow monitoring system, rigorous climate change monitoring. Himalayas are a very young mountain. They are getting, and the impact of climate change on Himalayas is very, very poorly studied till now. So we need more technical advancement in that regard. We need cross-institutional, multilateral communications, and multidisciplinary approach. So as you can see, the UDA framework, which I have, the UDA cube that I have put on the top right corner, we encompass all of that in the UDA framework. So UDA framework is such a multidisciplinary and multilateral, gives multilateral communication that it encompasses all these recommendations and could provide a firm basis for negotiating a better treaty. So the policy interventions that we look forward to are a sound balance between socio-political goals and scientific understandings. The food security issues need to be addressed both by India and Pakistan. So they need to come to a consensus. Improvement in India-Pakistan relationship, scientific and technological collaborations and transactions. We have to combat China's economic and political interference, which is happening directly and indirectly, and strategize India as a regional leader and move towards digital interventions. So the way ahead with underwater domain awareness, the main domains that we need to focus on the Indus Basin management, water quality management, climate resilience, food and energy security, technological innovations, flood and sediment management, farm practices and income management, and acknowledging the ecosystem services that we are getting from the Indus Basin and also protecting it. And marine spatial planning, which is an ecosystem-based approach, is of course incomplete without the health of the river. So, and also we have to take in the tools for the spatial planning of the management for Indus Basin. It's a very interesting and developing tool which can be used in the Indus Basin water management efficiently. So I'd like to conclude my presentation by saying that transboundary basins is not a new practice. I mean, allocating water is not a new practice. The water crisis is looming, and we need accelerated social, economic, and technological development. And we have to combat climate variability. But all of this calls for flexible approaches in allocations in order to future-proof water management. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Catherine. I'm I'm quite pleased with the presentation, certainly, but I apologize for the delay. So I'll straight away come to Ambassador Mudgal, sir. I'm extremely sorry, sir, for the poor time management, but I think the excitement of the interns was something I couldn't have kind of controlled. Sir, over to you, sir.
No, Arnab, thank you so much, and thanks all the participants. This is really very insightful what these youngsters are doing. You know my views on understanding the science of the space in which we are working. Unless we understand the spaces in which we are working, then those spaces become unpredictable. And unpredictability of the space where we live, where we function, could be a very, very difficult situation. It can really halt the process of progress. Arnab, in fact, sometimes we take life as such for granted. We start thinking that we are inherently entitled to living the way we want to live. Yes. But we forget that, in fact, life on the planet itself cannot be taken for granted. If you look at the rare gift that the planet Earth has in terms of life is absolutely amazing. There are in the Milky Way, there are something about 100 to 400 large and small planets. And in the universe, there is an estimate that we have close to 7 trillion planets of different sizes and shapes. And so far, we have not been able to have any indication of the life that we have on our planet. So can you imagine what kind of coincidence, lucky coincidence we are talking about? Over millions and millions of years, or rather billions of years, the nature brought together a large number of life-supporting factors. And luckily they converged. They converged on this planet and the life originated. So therefore, life cannot be taken for granted. We operate in a very narrow band of enabling circumstances. It's not really that whatever you want to do, you can do it. If you look at all the factors which support life, that bandwidth is a very narrow bandwidth. We need to operate within those narrow bandwidths. And, if you look at the planet's history, we have had, I don't remember exactly, 5 or 6 mass extinctions of species, which means a large number of species went extinct for one reason or the other, where this convergence was disturbed. And now people are saying we are looking at the next possible mass extinction, and this time a large contribution go to the human factor. What we are doing to the planet, like the kind of damage we are doing to the planet, and then also the resultant global warming. And we have been talking about this for many years now. In fact, I have been associated with talk about sustainable development and sustainability now for almost 30 years. Now, the issue is we use the term, can we live within the carrying capacity of the planet? Now, the carrying capacity of the planet, both in terms of the resources and also the changes we can make the composition of the planet. Because it's a mix. The same components of the planet in a different mix will not support life. We might have everything that the Earth has today, but once the combination changes, then the changed combination may not support life. Now, for example, when you get up in the morning in Delhi, on television, you see a chart which tells you what is the temperature today, what is the rainfall possibility, what is the humidity, what is the particulate matters, what is the ozone concentration, so on and so forth. And then you have, in some intelligent places, you have a graded response to that change. And the purpose is so that we do not exceed those limits which have been imposed on the planetary forces on supporting life, right? Though we have not reached anywhere close to an ideal situation, but at least there is a system which can be expanded to making sure that we stay within that bandwidth which has been allotted for life to exist and prosper, right? Now, when it comes to the changes in the planet or planetary composition and behavior, where is the largest component? One of the largest component, they are the oceans. If you look at their share in the sheer mass of this planet, it is overwhelming, which means the future of the planet in terms of its functions will be determined largely by oceans. Now the question is, all right, on land we have a rudimentary system which can indicate to us, are we exceeding the bandwidth? But in the ocean, we have no system which can tell us, are we exceeding the bandwidth? And that is where Arnab, I have been saying for so many months now that your idea, UDA, the underwater domain awareness, is the only way we can be informed, we could be cautioned, we could be guided whether we are exceeding the bandwidth allowed for life to survive and prosper. Now I think we are again in a very, very initial stages. It's a very complicated network of managing those factors. There are hundreds of factors and each factor is linked to the other 99. Yes. So now how to manage this? Because thank God now we have massive computational power, artificial intelligence, data processing, probably maybe I can hope, probably we'll reach that stage where we would have the systems to analyze these factors and see that this mix of these factors, enabling factors, remains within that broadband, or rather narrow band. It's not a broadband. And that is where Arnab, you have made a very good big thing, right? Let's continue working on understanding the spaces which we inhabit. If we don't understand, I'm sure we would not know when we'll cross the tipping point, yes, and become part of the mass extinction. I'm sure we do not want to be, yes. So I think everybody close with some kind of a saying, or let me say my own saying today. These youngsters, please remember, life is an exceptional blessing of the nature. And let's not waste it by not being careful about what created us. Yes. We need to be careful about our own creator, right? And that is where UDA is absolutely essential. Without UDA, we cannot understand our creator. And without understanding our creator, we cannot ensure that we stay within the enabling band, narrow bandwidth of life. With these words, thank you very much, Arnab, for giving me this opportunity of listening to these exciting presentations by the youngsters. In fact, I have been, as you know, kind of working with Association of Indian Universities to carry the message of sustainability to the universities and other educational institutions. Which is a phenomena which is still scratching at the surface. We simply do not understand the importance of staying within that narrow bandwidth. And I hope with these youngsters today, while they have given their presentation, but they will be your doorway to hundreds of others who will then start appreciating what we need to do and what kind of challenge we are facing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. I always look up to you for your mentorship, and we will continue this dialogue. And that was Ambassador Mudgal, sir, as part of the Blue Economy Task Force, and he is one of the very major contributor to that group. And he brings a lot of understanding and appreciation, being the Indian ambassador to Mauritius, and also it was when he was the ambassador, Prime Minister Modi went and announced the Sagar vision there. So sir has been instrumental in the entire, and sir is now also part of the blue economy policy that is going to be announced very soon. So it's extremely important that we showcase our work to sir, and it will definitely be heard at the right places. And sir, as you rightly said, it is not just the work, but it is also all these kids. I'm using the word kids. I don't know if that is appropriate. These are the future of this country and the globe. I mean, most of them come from IITs and from very good institutions, and they will be taking up very important positions in future. And if we can inject the UDA framework into them, I think UDA framework is in safe hands. So that is what I would like to say. And I'm sorry we were very poor in managing the time, but I thought I didn't want to intervene and stop anybody and say that please kind of cut down. So thank you so much, sir, for your very encouraging words. And if there is anybody quickly wants to say something, there are senior people I know. Subedar sir, you may like to say a few words. Captain Subedar sir, can you hear me?
Arab, can I take your
Yes,
leave?
sir, yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Extremely sorry, sir. We've overshot the time by many miles. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I think Subedar sir is not available. So I think thank you very much. I am extremely satisfied with the presentation. Sridhar, Catherine, you've done a great job, and all the interns, I must congratulate you and the fellows. It has been an excellent journey for us as MRC, and I think UDA is being driven by the right kind of people. That's all I can say. If anybody wants to say something at the end, otherwise we'll close. So I think there are no comments. So thank you so much. We've had a good day and a good discussion, and it gives, I'm sure others have also followed what is happening, and the collaboration will get better. Thank you very much. So we'll close the day with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Nishta, thank you so much for